Chapter 1125. Su Mingyang, who was moving forward, was not stupid enough to leave the group. He knew the situation in the 100,000 mountains very well. He had been here twice in the name of traveling. This was the advantage of being the provincial governor. He had nothing to do, usually. No matter where he wanted to go, as long as he was not too far away from Luzhou, no one would object. He wanted to go to the 100,000 mountains to play and have others by his side to protect him. Therefore, he had also seen some of the situations in the 100,000 mountains. Usually it was okay, but occasionally there were dangers, especially when they left the main road. There were all kinds of poisonous insects, snakes, and other animals that specialized in eating meat. The danger was not small. Usually, people who came to travel had to move forward according to the requirements of the people they were protecting. They were not allowed to leave the group casually. He did not think that all the animals in the 100,000 mountains would obediently worship the emperor like the people. Therefore, even if he walked in front, he was still under the protection of the large group. However, there was a difference between the front and the emperor. There were relatively fewer guards, so there were fewer animals that were scared away. Some animals even saw that there were fewer people in front and wanted to ambush or something. This was his opportunity. There were only 8 bullets left. No matter what, he had to kill a few more prey. As for whether Xiao Bei and the others would let others kill the prey, Su Mingyang was not worried at all. No matter how much the emperor liked Xiao Bei and the others, it was impossible for him to be biased in this regard. Even Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were the same. Winning or losing was not important to their younger siblings. It was just cooking, not to mention practicing. How could a group of children make delicious food? Of course, even if it was not delicious, he was willing to eat it. He did not want to go to the docks to do heavy work with the people of Luzhou. It was not only embarrassing, but how could he carry a more than 100 kilograms sack? Was there a more than 100 kilograms sack at the docks? Probably not. It was at least 200 kilograms. The people who worked there were all very strong. With the idea of not doing heavy work, Su Mingyang became serious. He held the binoculars to look for prey. From time to time, he stopped to aim, but he did not shoot easily. Only when he felt confident, he pulled the trigger. After 2 hours, Su Mingyang finally finished firing the remaining 8 bullets. However, the result was not very ideal. He only managed to catch 4 prey, 2 chickens, a rabbit, and a snake. The last snake was really stupid. He knew very well that he had aimed at a bear, but in the end, he had killed the snake in the grass beside it. If it weren't for the fact that someone who specialized in scouting had picked it up for him, he would have thought that the shot had missed. Apart from the fact that he was able to hunt the prey, there were 2 points. One was that Su Mingyang now knew that he couldn't just aim and shoot the prey. He dared to bet that if he was given another 10 bullets, he would definitely be able to shoot better than now. This was because he had discovered a little trick, which was to control his breathing. When he was gasping for breath, it was best not to shoot. Even if he was lying on the ground, it would affect the accuracy of the gun. The second was that he knew that the bear could run so fast. When he didn't hit the bear with his shot, the bear turned and ran, not giving him a chance to shoot again. It seemed that in the blink of an eye, the bear had entered the woods and could no longer be found. The gunshots elsewhere also stopped. Su Mingyang didn't know how many shots Xiao Bei's 9 children had fired, and he didn't have the energy to count. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't. This was because not only was there the sound of gunshots, but there was also the echo of gunshots in the mountains. Who knew how many people fired at the same time? The sound of gunshots rang in his ears endlessly. Putting away the gun, Su Mingyang asked someone to help bring the 4 prey to the middle of the team. He was very satisfied with his performance today. Usually, there was no limit to the number of bullets, and it was impossible for him to hunt more than 3 prey a day. Today, he was able to perform exceptionally well under pressure. But when he returned to Li Longji's side, he was dumbfounded. In front of him were a few small piles of prey. There weren't any big guys, only a bear. Looking at the wounds on the bear, he knew that the bear had suffered a lot of blows. It was bloody, and it was all wounds. It was definitely not caused by a single shot. Beside the bear, there were 6 other animals, a total of 7. There was no need to guess. Su Mingyang already knew that this pile of animals belonged to the person who had the most injuries out of the 9 children. However, he was very confused. There were a total of 7 animals that belonged to one person, but not every animal had only one wound on its body. Especially that bear, there was almost no wound on its head, and there was no bleeding at the heart. So, how did it get killed? Looking at the bleeding points in other places, he could guess. If he didn't guess wrong, it was definitely tortured to death by a single shot, or it bled to death. Su Mingyang, you only got 4 small things. Whether it is the number or the weight, you lost. When you go back, you have to work at the dock. AI, what a pity, we wanted to cook for you for 2 months, but you didn't give us the chance. It really made us speechless. Seeing Su Mingyang come back, Xiao Bei immediately ran forward, looked at the 4 prey, shook his head, and said with a regretful look. Su Mingyang's face became very ugly. First, he looked at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, and then looked at the emperor. He found that these people didn't have any other expressions. He knew that Xiao Bei and the other 9 people didn't have any other help. But he was still very dissatisfied and said, "Why are there so many bullet holes on the bear's body?" "Because there were so many bullets that hit it. Do you still need to ask?" Xiao Bei said confidently. "So many bullets hit it. Can it be considered a person's prey? You might as well say that it was 9 people combined. Compared to me, I definitely won't win." Su Mingyang really didn't want to work at the dock. Shameful, it was really too shameful. If he really went, it would definitely be known by others in the future. How could he raise his head in front of others? A dignified 3rd-ranked provincial governor actually did such a lowly job. Others might not say anything to him in front of him, but behind his back, they would probably give him the nickname of living provincial governor. It would damage the prestige of an official, and was not something a gentleman would do. Xiao Bei didn't know what Su Mingyang was thinking. When he heard the question, he asked, "Let me ask you, Su Mingyang, out of the 9 of us, 8 of us gave you a punch, and the last one hit you in the head with a brick. Who do you think killed them?" Naturally, it was with a brick. Su Mingyang answered without thinking. "Yes, there are 9 of us. That's how it is when we use guns to shoot a bear. 8 of us didn't kill the bear, and the last one killed the bear. Naturally, the credit goes to the last person." Xiao Bei followed Su Mingyang's words. "You just said it was with a punch." Su Mingyang reminded. "All right, I'll say it again. There were 9 of us, and 8 of us hit your arm with a brick. In the end, 1 of us hit your head. Who killed you?" Xiao Bei continued to play along with Su Mingyang's words. Li Longji and the others couldn't help but laugh. To Xiao Bei, Li Longji was all too clear. If she had to quote classics or something, she could only look for Xiao Yuan. But if it was a normal conversation, she felt that she could come up with a lot of fallacies. Especially when she was talking to you, she looked very serious. If you really thought that she didn't know anything and wanted to explain it to her clearly, she would definitely become more and more confused. Su Mingyang was a little confused at this moment. He raised his hand to rub his temples and said to Xiao Bei, "That's not what I mean. What I mean is, look, there are 9 of you and others helped to shoot. Even if the last shot was fired by the most important person among you, don't you think it's unfair to me?" "Ah, you're saying it's fair? Fair, why is it fair? What is fair? What is fair? Is it even?" When Xiao Bei heard this, she also asked in confusion. She tried her best to tiptoe and gestured with her hand above her head. She really wanted to reach Su Mingyang's head, but even if she raised her arm, she couldn't reach Su Mingyang's head. She just tilted her head back and forth to level it. Su Mingyang was stunned and immediately became speechless. He understood what Xiao Bei was trying to say. She was saying, "If you want to talk about fairness with us, how old are you and how old are we? I'm not even as tall as you when I raise my arm, and you want to talk about fairness with us like this?" For a moment, Su Mingyang felt very embarrassed, but he still couldn't bring himself to admit defeat and work at the docks. So he asked, "When you were on the battlefield, did the enemy not hit you because you were young?" "No, then let me ask you, When you were on the battlefield, did you not shoot because you were alone and the other party was 9 people? Xiao Bei stared and asked. Ha ha. Li Longji laughed even more heartily. He didn't care who won or lost. He came out to play for fun, and now he felt that it was very interesting. Su Mingyang's expression became even uglier. I don't believe that any of you can shoot so accurately. Every shot was at a critical moment and at a critical position. For example, this bear. How can you be sure that it was killed by the person who killed the other 6 prey? Can you be sure that it was him or her who aimed that shot intentionally? No, we can't compare to you. We're not like the snake you killed in the end. It was hiding in the grass, but in the end, its head was still smashed by you. Admirable, truly admirable. You scared away the bear beside you. I'm guessing that the bear will be scared and tell its descendants that there was a person with very accurate marksmanship. Thankfully, that person didn't aim at me, or there wouldn't be any of you. Back then, I came out to hunt with Brother Snake. In the end, Brother Snake wanted to trick me by making me stand at a conspicuous spot. In the end, that person saw through Brother Snake's trick. He wanted to eat the snake's gallbladder. So he pretended to aim at me, but he actually shot Brother Snake unexpectedly. Brother Snake sacrificed himself just like that. Haha, I'm dying of laughter. As Xiao Bei spoke to Su Mingyang, she held her stomach and laughed. Haha. When the surrounding people heard Xiao Bei's words, whether they were guards or waiters, they couldn't help but laugh. Li Longji even pinched his own thigh. He was laughing so hard that his stomach hurt. Su Mingyang was completely dumbfounded. He didn't expect Xiao Bei to be so eloquent. After pondering for a moment, he finally gave up on finding excuses. He gritted his teeth and said in a huff, "All right, I'll consider it your win. Isn't it just 2 months of work? 1 meal at a time. If I do it, I can get closer to the people. All right, I guess you're right. Go back to work. I'll give you the bullets, and you can continue to shoot. But we won't compete unless you can take out other stakes. The prey you've hunted now is yours. You have something to eat again. Congratulations." Xiao Bei said to Su Mingyang in a very magnanimous manner. She couldn't continue shooting today. Her arm still hurt. She would probably have to get her brother and sister to rub it with medicinal wine tonight. She could only try using a rifle the next day. For children, there was no such thing as an adult. If they exercised too much today, their muscles wouldn't be able to adapt and wouldn't be able to recover for a few days. Usually, they would be fine after a good night's sleep. Su Mingyang suppressed his gloomy thoughts and asked for a lot of bullets. He continued to accompany Li Longji and the others as they moved forward to look for prey. While walking, he didn't forget to take this opportunity to get closer to the emperor and talk to Li Longji. "Your Majesty, this subject discovered a secret when I was fighting with Patrol Inspector Zhang and the others." Su Mingyang wasn't in a hurry to look for animals to shoot. Seeing the emperor looking around with binoculars, he said. In fact, Li Longji didn't have to hunt prey. He was looking at the terrain here and wondering if there was a place that could be used if there was a war. If he could pull a few troops over and have a confrontation exercise here, what kind of harvest could he get? Hearing Su Mingyang's words, he observed and asked, "What secret? Tell me." Replying to Your Majesty, this subject discovered that when shooting, it's best to hold your breath and then shoot. If you shoot, the gun will be very stable and won't deviate too much unless there's an accidental situation. Su Mingyang replied. When he said that the gun wouldn't deviate too much, he would feel embarrassed if there was an accidental situation. Clearly, the snake that scared the bear away was one of his masterpieces. Li Longji didn't speak directly. After looking around again, he said, "This is the conclusion you came to? Do you know what are the 2 main points that we have to remember when we great Tang riflemen are training?" "This subject doesn't know," Su Mingyang replied. At the same time, he had a vague idea in his mind. Sure enough, Li Longji said to him, "One of the points is that you must control your breathing before you fire the gun. The second point is to try your best to make the shot unintentional. That is to say, your subconscious mind controls your body to fire the gun in that instant instead of you deliberately pulling the trigger with all your might. This is especially true for snipers, as they have reached a level where they can fire at will. That is, there will be a moment when your body doesn't know whether to fire the gun or not, and the bullet will just fly out. Ah, how is that possible? Isn't that like telling a story? Su Mingyang couldn't help but ask in astonishment. How is that not possible? You know how to walk, right? Don't tell me that every time you take a step, you have to think about which leg to take first, how to take that step, how much strength to use, and put your mind on that leg. You can reach this level after countless training. It's like how you walk. When you shoot a certain number of times, it's just like how you walk. When you move forward, you don't raise your leg to raise it, but to go somewhere. It's the same with firing a gun. You don't have to pull the trigger to move, but to hit someone. Your skills are still far from that. Work hard and take advantage of the opportunity to come here with me, Li Longji said to Su Mingyang. Then, he shook his head regretfully. It seemed that he wasn't understood by others. He continued to use the binoculars to look for targets. Su Mingyang stopped. Wei Wei followed behind and pondered over the emperor's words. Gao Lisher also slowed down slightly. He said to Su Mingyang, "That's how Lil Nen fired the gun earlier. She took only a short time to aim. When she actually fired the gun, it was completed in an instant." Xiao Bao and Cuckoo also fired the gun almost instantly. It's like how you write when you're not deliberately practicing calligraphy. If you want to write every stroke well, it won't be as comfortable as writing when you're not paying attention. Of course, no matter how you write, your handwriting won't look good. I've seen your handwriting before. Yes, I'll work hard to practice calligraphy in the future. Su Mingyang agreed gloomily. It was one thing that he couldn't win against others in terms of shooting, but now it was related to calligraphy. Who could he complain to? Li Longji and the others stayed in the 100,000 mountains for half a month before they returned to the construction site of Luzhou's railroad. They finally got to see how the railroad was built. On the flat land, the construction workers were all from Great Tang. They helped to carry the railroad tracks and the sleepers. They were very careful and did not ask for speed. They were all recruited from places around Luzhou. They were paid, and their meals were not bad. There were 4 shifts in total. Each shift worked for 6 hours. After that, they could rest. However, they could do other manual labor. Moreover, because the beach was humid, they could drink some wine. When they encountered mountains or slopes, they would be replaced by people from other places. There were people from Xinyuan Island and Kunlun slaves. These people worked in 3 shifts. They were not as tired as Zhang Xiaobao said. It was not that they did not want to, but they could not. If they really did that, they would work for 8 to 18 hours a day. It was fine in the first few hours, but in the end, they would be exhausted. If that was the case, it would be better to let them rest. They would work for 8 hours and then sleep. After 4 hours of sleep, they would wake up and work for another 4 hours. They would eat and continue to sleep to ensure that they had stamina. However, when they worked, they had to be fast. Those who were slow would be whipped. Moreover, because they had to rest for a long time, their meals were not good. There was no meat at all. The only meat was when they were cooking. When they were stewing in a big pot, they would sprinkle a spoonful of oil on it when it was almost done. There was a lot of oil in the bowl, and no matter who scooped it, there would be oil in the bowl. However, the dishes were not greasy. Under normal circumstances, the oil was used to keep the dishes warm so that the heat would not dissipate so quickly. The staple food was not very good. It was not comparable to the people of Great Tang. They ate rice, white flour, millet, sorghum, and the like. Generally, they ate highland barley, which was usually used to feed the animals. If there was something good, it would be the salted vegetables. They tasted good and were salty enough. Not only was there a lot of salted vegetables near the beach, but it was the same on other roads as well. They were afraid that the people who worked would not eat enough salt and would be exhausted. Even so, the people who worked felt that the food was good. This was because they could not see what the people of Great Tang ate when they worked. The captives who were captured on Xinyuan Island felt that the food in Great Tang was very good. At the very least, there was a wide variety of dishes. Moreover, the taste was more than twice as good as what they used to eat. When they were on the island, it was not easy for them. They were also very tired. Moreover, they had to hunt for long periods of time. Their meals were usually eaten or cooked in stone pots. How could it compare to the food they ate now? There were many good seasonings in the dishes, and the chef was skilled as well. The food tasted delicious. If there was a flaw, it would be that there was no meat. It was not that there was no meat at all. Since the people of Luzhou lived near the beach, the least valuable food was fish. Every 2 or 3 days, fish would be cooked for them. They were much better off compared to the people in some places in Great Tang. Su Mingyang was also inspecting the food. When he saw how happy the slaves were during the meal, he had a sad expression on his face. He said to Li Longji, "Your Majesty, I've realized that ignorance is a kind of happiness sometimes. They're content with food like this. How pitiful." Li Longji looked at Su Mingyang in surprise. He nodded and said, "It's because they're not from Great Tang. Don't you think so, Little Bei?" Li Longji asked Little Bei and the others. He wanted them to talk about the pride that Great Tang should have. Who knew that before Xiao Bei could reply, Little Hai would speak up. Yes, ignorance is a kind of happiness. However, when you think that others are ignorant and have a bad life, and you think that you know more and have a good life, it's sad. You think you have a good life, but don't you know that there are others who have a better life than you? Those who are willing to be ordinary are actually enjoying the results of those who are willing to work hard. Life is not about how you want to be ordinary, because your food, clothes, and necessities are all provided by others. Hence, the true enjoyment of life is how much you can provide for others. Those who live in seclusion are the most hateful people. They don't even have the courage to stand up unless they can refine their own things, get their own food, salt, and clothes. That way, they won't be a burden to others. Otherwise, their so-called leisurely life is built on the hard work of others. I hate people like that the most. They always have to do something, even if it's to go out and teach. Yes, my big brother Little Hai is right. Don't trample on the hard work of others, and then say that you're noble. Look at me. I'm also working hard, even though I'm still young. Little Bei immediately supported Little Hai. Su Mingyang was stunned. He had never thought that Little Hai would be able to say such philosophical words. Regardless of whether these words were right or not, at the very least, these words should not have come from the mouth of a child. Suddenly, he looked at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who were standing not far away. What he meant was, how many things did these two teach their younger siblings, and how to make them understand? Li Longji smiled and said, "You don't have to look at Xiaobao and Cuckoo. They never directly teach these things, they only guide them. You don't have to be surprised if Little Hai can't say anything else. The two of them don't teach the same thing. Every child may understand what they say differently, but there's no right or wrong." Oh. Su Mingyang didn't quite believe him and replied. Little Bei immediately said, "Su Mingyang, did you forget something? You haven't gone to work at the docks yet. Do you want to wait for us to leave before you go? Or do you want to run away after you get there? We have a bet, you know. You have to pay back your debts." Su Mingyang's face turned red. He did have this thought, and he wanted to delay it for as long as possible. He didn't expect that just as he made up his mind, Xiao Bei would point it out. He thought that Xiao Bei would forget about it as he played. After all, when they were on the mountain, Little Bei and the others had never mentioned anything about him working at the docks again. He did not expect Little Bei to remember and mention it now. "Tomorrow I'll go tomorrow," Su Mingyang agreed. However, he felt sad inwardly. If this matter was exposed, many people would laugh at him in the future. Although he could make a name for himself, what was the use of a name? Luzhou was still the Luzhou of the Zhang family and the Wang family. Most importantly, a name was not necessarily a good name. He was the one who lost the bet. The people of Luzhou would definitely know that he was paying back his debt. If this were any other place, he would have shared the joys and sorrows of the people. He would have accepted it if the people said he was good. Oh, my life! If I see the Zhang family and the Wang family in the future, I'll have to stay as far away as possible. It's not worth it. It's a promise. You'll go tomorrow. Don't repeat the same thing over and over again, Little Bei said. After that, he no longer mentioned the matter. He followed Li Longji and slowly walked around the construction site. He looked at everyone working hard and hoped that the railway would be completed as soon as possible. That way, it would be much more convenient for him to travel to Luzhou from the capital in the future. He did not need to take a boat. How could a boat be faster than a train? Early the next morning, Su Mingyang did as he said. He woke up and ran to the docks. He planned to work for a while before he went to accompany the emperor. However, when he got to work, he was dumbfounded. He had agreed to work for a meal. Normally, he would just have a meal. However, when he arrived at the docks, someone was already cooking for him. It seemed like they did not intend to bully him at all. At the docks, he was responsible for recording the goods going to and from his place. After recording for about 15 minutes, he wanted to leave. However, someone stopped him. The person who stopped him was from the Chamber of Commerce. Provincial Governor Su, do you need to excuse yourself? The person from the Chamber of Commerce asked. Excuse myself? It's not convenient for me. I'm going back. I've already recorded a lot. Su Mingyang thought to himself, I'm working. Are you going to keep an eye on me? The other party nodded. Oh, you want to go back? But it's not time for a meal yet. Do you want to renege on your bet? How is it not time yet? Isn't 15 minutes enough for a meal? Hurry up and eat. It's enough. Su Mingyang glared at the other party. In fact, he did feel that the time was shorter, but he had a reason. He ate so fast. There were people who ate faster than him. He didn't even mention it. Lord Su, could it be that you eat raw rice at home and don't need to cook? Think about it, isn't that the case? Normally, when I eat, I have to cook. A meal needs to be cooked for a while before it can be eaten. If you really only eat raw food and finish it in a quarter of an hour, then you can leave now. I'll immediately report to Xiao Bei and the rest of the girls. When the time comes, I don't know if someone is watching you eat in your residence. However, I still advise you to continue to stay there. It's already good that I didn't ask you to carry anything. The person from the Chamber of Commerce had no intention of backing down. He questioned Su Mingyang rudely. Su Mingyang glared at him again. You didn't say that it was going to be a meal like this. Speak honestly. Who would say that a meal includes eating when talking to others? But you didn't say it. Since you didn't say it, why should we follow what you said? Xiao Bei said that if they lose, they will cook a meal for you every day. You can eat it when the time comes. Based on this, the bet should be the same. When they said it, they would cook a meal for you to eat. If you lose, why did you omit the cooking? If you think that we are too slow, I will go find Xiao Bei and the others and let them cook for you. We will see how much time it takes. We can even give you the time to eat. After all, we said that we would cook. What do you think? The person from the Chamber of Commerce pointed at the person cooking. The threat in his words was very clear. Su Mingyang didn't expect the other party to be so shameless. However, after thinking about it carefully, the other party's words were reasonable. That's right. Since they said that Xiao Bei and the others would cook a meal, then his meal should naturally be the time to cook a meal. However, it shouldn't be like this. The time to eat a meal could be long or short. Cooking a meal was even more so. Especially if Xiao Bei and the others were to cook, wouldn't they need to prepare for half a day just to prepare the ingredients? By the time they finished cooking, the sun would have turned into the sunset. If they were really forced to come over and cook a meal, wouldn't they need to rest for a day and a night? Wouldn't he need to sleep? Su Mingyang turned his head to look at the person cooking. He was finally afraid and didn't want Xiao Bei and the others to set a time. He asked, "What are they making?" In reply to Lord Su, "They are making something very nutritious for you. It's turtle soup for you. Just wait, it won't take long before you can eat it." The person from the Chamber of Commerce spoke as if he was concerned about Su Mingyang. He then gestured for Su Mingyang to sit back down and continue working. Su Mingyang's vision suddenly turned black. Looking at the stall and the slow fire below, a single turtle soup would take an entire day to cook. Su Mingyang returned to his seat and took down 2 notes. He couldn't help but ask, "Why is it this dish? Can't I change it? Could it be that you want to eat Buddha jumps over the wall? Oh, that's Between the Clouds and the Water's signature dish. I'll change it for you tomorrow." The person from the Chamber of Commerce replied smoothly, No, I don't want Buddha jumps over the wall. You will need 3 to 5 days to prepare for Buddha jumps over the wall. By then, I will be buried in a hole and won't be able to jump over the wall." Su Mingyang shook his head vigorously. He had eaten it before and also heard the steps of Buddha jumps over the wall from the waiter. He couldn't wait. The person from the Chamber of Commerce asked again, "How about bear paw?" "Bear paw takes even longer to prepare. I'll take this turtle soup. I want to nourish myself. Can you put an umbrella on top of it? You don't have sour plum soup, but you should have cold water, right?" Su Mingyang finally accepted his fate at this moment. He felt that he should have thought about it. The idea that Xiao Bei and the other 9 children came up with when they gathered together was definitely not that simple. No matter if he won or lost, his days wouldn't be easy. It was a pity that he was cheated by others. He had delayed working at the docks for a single meal. 2 months. He didn't need to make anything else. The turtle soup would take at least 4 hours, right? Unless he used other methods to cook the turtle first, but the nourishing aspect was lacking. It was best to simmer it slowly. At noon, just as Su Mingyang thought, the turtle soup was not ready yet. He discussed with the people from the Chamber of Commerce to give him some lunch first. It was not counted as a meal, and he had to continue working. Only then did the people from the Chamber of Commerce agree. In the end, he ate lunch at the docks. It didn't mean that he had to eat outside. There was a cafeteria at the docks. After receiving a tray, he could go in and choose the dishes. There were many types of dishes, more than 30. There was a combination of meat and vegetables. He could eat whatever he wanted, but there was a limit to the amount. There was enough staple food and egg soup. Su Mingyang admitted that the cafeteria at the docks was not bad. Not only was it free, but there were so many dishes. Not all construction sites would prepare more than 30 dishes for you. In other places in the Great Tang, food was also provided, but there were only a few kinds of food, and they had to eat it over and over again every day because it was cheap. Moreover, when it was time to change shifts, those who changed shifts would be given a cup of white wine. There were probably very few construction sites in the Great Tang that could provide such food. But it was good. What was his identity? He was a provincial governor. How could he eat with other people at the bottom, listening to their messy words? When had he ever suffered like this? Except for the 2 days before when no one gave him food. Depressed, Su Mingyang didn't have much appetite. He ordered a vegetable dish with cucumber and scooped some soup. He found that the egg in the soup was too fragmented. He complained and poured it into half a bowl of rice. He hurriedly finished it with the rice and ran out to work under the umbrella. It was not until evening that he ate the boiled turtle. It tasted good, but he would rather not eat it. He only begged that he didn't need to come tomorrow. Su Mingyang took a free car back to his residence. He was not in the mood to see the emperor. He directly asked someone to boil a pool of water and soaked in it. He also asked 2 people to massage him. He groaned and went to sleep after washing. The next morning, he got up early and counted the days. Today was the school break. He called his youngest son, who was born by his concubine, over. He was 8 years old, about the same age as Xiao Bei and the others. He gave his son a glorious and difficult task. He sent his son out to the amusement park to find Xiao Bei and the others to play. The other children were also on break today. He estimated that Xiao Bei and the others would be able to play with others at the amusement park. Su Mingyang told his family that they would send him sour plum soup at the dock at noon. Otherwise, he would die of heat. He rode a horse and rushed to the dock at the fastest speed. He estimated that he would not be able to come back for another day. The Zhang family and Wang family were too wicked. They would definitely not let him go. Sure enough, When he arrived at the dock, he saw someone cooking soup. He didn't even need to ask what soup it was. It was guaranteed that it would be cooked for a day. Cooking something can be fast and slow sometimes. Even if you put some lamb chops in it, you can't say anything about it for a day. The longer it was cooked, the more delicious it would be. At the same time, the amusement park was also like what he thought. When the children were on break, they all ran to the amusement park to play. He didn't know what was so fun about it. Every time they were on break, they would play, and they didn't get tired of playing. Xiao Bei and the other 11 children also came to the amusement park by car. They didn't want to play any entertainment. They just wanted to have children to play with. Su Mingyang's youngest son had been waiting for a long time. His surname was also Su, and his name was Su Wan. He was far from the age of having a nickname. When the time came, he would give him a nickname that was opposite to Wan. Otherwise, the word Wan would not sound good. When he saw Xiao Bei and the others, Su Wan came over and accompanied them according to his father's instructions. He didn't speak. No matter what Xiao Bei and the others played, he would protect them. For example, when they were on the slide, or when he was thirsty, he thought that Xiao Bei was also thirsty. So he ran to get water and bring it to them. At first, Xiao Bei and the others didn't notice. They thought that it was just an ordinary child who was willing to play with them. There were other children around, chattering happily and playing with them. But after a long time, Xiao Bei and the others finally realized that something was wrong. When other children came to play, other than talking, they also played by themselves. Why didn't this one play by himself and insist on accompanying him? He said that he wasn't thirsty, but he actually brought water 3 times in a row. Why couldn't he drink it if he was thirsty? Stop you. What are you doing? Xiao Bei stopped Su Wan, who was about to run to the place where water was provided. I'm drinking water, Su Wan answered. Don't give it to us. Drink your own. We'll drink it when we're thirsty, Xiao Bei reminded him. Su Wan shook his head. No, my father said that I must serve you well. Otherwise, I will be punished when I go back. Your father is? What's your name? Xiao Bei asked again. Su Wan answered. Xiao Bei and the others suddenly understood. Xiao Bei said, You're Su Mingyang's son, right? You can play by yourself. Don't worry about us. Don't worry, your father won't dare to punish you when you go back. If he does, he won't go home tomorrow night and will continue to work at the dock. Seriously, he brought his son here. That's too disgusting. Isn't it just 2 months of work? This is called joining the masses. What a good opportunity. Su Wan shook his head. No, my father said that I can play with you. It suits your status. Other children can't. Why can't other children? What are our status? Status? We're 3rd-rank officials. Based on our status, you can do it? It's more appropriate for your father to come over and play with us. Our status now is that of children. Why can't other children? According to what you said, we don't have anyone to play with. Don't pester us. Just tell your father that we want to play by ourselves. Xiao Bei was most disgusted by mentioning their status for no reason. They didn't have many people to play with. If they mentioned their status, wouldn't they interact with other children in the future? Then can you ask my father to finish his work earlier? When my father came home yesterday, he was exhausted. He really can't bear the hardship. Also, my father said that he already knows what to do. Just give him a chance. Su Wan said according to his father's instructions. Xiao Bei shook his head. No, a bet is a bet. You can't do it after just 1 day? Other people don't say that they can't survive. How tired can it be to record things at the dock? If you say no, it means no. If you continue to pester us, we won't play anymore. We'll go back and teach your father a lesson. If you don't believe me, you can try. I'm so angry that I sold my son. Xiao Bei actually knew what Su Wan meant. It wasn't that Su Mingyang knew what to do, but that he knew that he was wrong and was begging for mercy. But it was absolutely impossible. Work had to be done, and it had to be done for 2 months. It wasn't to punish Su Mingyang, but to gradually change his mentality when he was working. He always thought that, as an official, he shouldn't have too much contact with the people. He should be high and mighty. Su Wan was frightened when he heard Xiao Bei's words. He nodded and ran to the dock with his head down. He had to report to his father in case he was punished at night. Chapter 1126. Seeing Su Wan run away, Xiao Yuan pondered for a moment and said, "Why don't we go to the dock and help out? Let Su Mingyang see if he's that precious. If we can do it, why can't he? We have nothing to do anyway." Xiao Bei and the others looked at each other and found that no one objected. Even Pan, and her brother kept nodding. They probably didn't know where they were going and what they were going to do. They probably didn't care what their brothers and sisters did. As long as they could bring them along, it would be fun. Anyway, there was nothing they could help with. Their mission was to play. The more fun they had, the better. Hence, the 11 of them set off toward the dock under the protection of the guards. The children who were still playing in the amusement park looked disappointed. They also wanted to follow, but the dock had a rule that children were not allowed to get close. It was too dangerous. Xiao Bei and the others were naturally not allowed to go. They also wouldn't cause any trouble at the dock. They naturally had someone to protect them, so there was no need for extra manpower at the dock. The dock wasn't very far from the amusement park. After traveling for less than half an hour by car, the group arrived. From afar, they saw Su Mingyang keeping count. Xiao Bei found someone from the Chamber of Commerce and asked. Su Mingyang was in charge of keeping count for 2 groups of people. One group had 6 people, and 2 groups had 12 people. Su Mingyang had to keep count of how much work each person carried. Lu Zhou had never been idle at the docks. He was always busy. Moreover, he worked 24 hours a day, day or night. The person in charge of keeping count didn't look at how much work each person did and then pay according to the amount. Instead, he watched the people working and didn't allow them to carry too much at a time. They also didn't allow them to carry too many things at a time. They had to be within a suitable range. Every person usually had a hospital here to check their body and test their physique. Those who weren't sick and had a good physique were marked next to the person in charge of keeping count. This group of people could work more than others, so they could earn more money. As for those with a normal physique, they were not allowed to work too hard. Otherwise, they would be tired and have problems. The monthly salary was definitely enough for their family to live a good life. However, if they were left alone, they wouldn't work more for the money. Because the dock was managed by the Chamber of Commerce, they would consciously work more to repay the Zhang family and Wang family. Therefore, the Chamber of Commerce had no choice but to arrange for someone to record the news. It was a waste of manpower, but it had to be done. Zhang Liuzi, it's time. You're not allowed to do it anymore. Go down and rest. Although Su Mingyang was not satisfied with his current job, he was still quite dedicated. He stared at a person named Zhang Liuzi and shouted, "I'm still short of 2 trips." Zhang Liuzi swung his arms and shouted. A supervisor came over and kicked him. "I said you're here, so you're here. Get lost. If you don't leave, I'll punish you. Rest for a while and drink some water. Come back in half an hour. Otherwise, I'll punish you." Zhang Liuzi had no choice but to grumble resentfully. She walked over to the shed that was specially used for them to rest. She scooped up half a ladle of water mixed with salt, sweet and sour, and gulped it down. Then, she took a wet towel and wiped the sweat on her upper body. She found a stool to lie down and closed her eyes to rest. Xiao Bei and the others knew at a glance that this was a mountain person. The original mountain people, after coming down from the mountain, basically all changed their surname to Zhang or Wang, not to mention those who didn't have a surname. In the various rest areas, from time to time, there would be people going back to drink water and rest. From time to time, there would be people getting up and continuing to work. No one was lazy, and no one was dawdling and not doing things properly. When Xiao Bei and the others arrived, the people at the dock immediately looked over. However, no one approached Xiao Bei and the others to speak. One reason was because they were afraid of wasting time, and the other was because they were worried about the safety of Xiao Bei and the others. If too many people came over, it would be easy for something to happen. Therefore, they did not allow others to come over. Su Mingyang turned his head and saw Xiao Bei and the others. His face suddenly became gloomy. He said in dissatisfaction, "You're here to laugh at me, right? Laugh. Laugh as hard as you can. What's there to laugh about? We saw your son, a very cute child. He's still on his way here and will probably be here in a while. Those two are under your care, right? Look, they were carrying 2 bags just now, and now they're carrying 3. I'm talking about you. You still dare to run? Do you want to vomit blood from exhaustion? Put them down. If you get sick from exhaustion, our family still has to treat you. Do you think that medical equipment and medicine are free?" Xiao Bei said a few words to Su Mingyang, then pointed at the 2 people carrying the bags and shouted. The overseer immediately ran over and reprimanded them. The 2 people repeatedly said good things and finally carried the 3 bags over. They smiled in satisfaction, as if it was a kind of happiness to be able to do more work when no one was paying attention. "Are they always like this?" Xiao Bei asked a steward from the Chamber of Commerce. The steward quickly replied, "Yes, if we're not careful, they'll steal and do more work. If they carry the bags, it's not good to let them throw one down. The things inside are easy to break. It's like fighting all day long, so we have to watch them closely." As a result, the people recording the items and the overseer keep repeating the same thing with them. It's considered a fun thing to do at the docks. In fact, it's fine to carry more occasionally, but if we don't do anything, they'll carry more in the future. It's really troublesome to worry about them. A few days ago, 2 people carried more than 1 bag, and as a result, they strained their muscles and are still lying down. This shows that there are still loopholes in your supervision. You have to think of something. We'll think about it and let you know when the time comes. When Xiao Bei heard that someone was tired, he frowned and said to the steward, Yes, please take care of it." The steward could only agree and did not dare to refute. This was how the rules of the Zhang family and the Wang family were. If there was a problem with the rules, it would not be a coincidence. There would only be things that were not done properly. There was no need to explain. If they had the time to explain, they should think about how to perfect the rules. As expected, Xiao Bei and the others gathered together to discuss. When they saw people coming and going at the docks, they realized that those who wanted to do more work would usually unload the items from the ship and put them there. Originally, 2 people would carry 4 bags, 1 in front and 1 behind. However, the person in front would carry 3 bags and leave. Naturally, there would be more work. The person who delivered the goods from the ship had no choice. He would give 2 bags, but the other 2 bags would have to be given to the person behind immediately. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time. With this, a loophole appeared. The 9 children muttered to themselves for a while before they finally came up with a solution. Xiao Bei sighed and said, "When other places look for people to do work, the overseer is afraid that someone will slack off, and the person who takes notes is paid for recording the items. Lu Zhou is the opposite. What's there to be embarrassed about working with someone like this?" Su Mingyang, who was taking notes, turned his head abruptly. Xiao Bei was clearly talking about him. He glanced at Xiao Bei before he continued to stare at the 2 groups of people he was in charge of. He was also cursing endlessly in his heart. Xiao Bei ignored Su Mingyang's gaze and said to the steward, "Do you see the bags of goods?" "I see them. Some of them are cloth bags, some are gunny sacks, and they're divided according to the different items. There are also baskets. We have a standard here that varies according to the size and weight of the items. That's why it's easier to keep track of how much work each person can carry. Don't tell me you want to change the standard?" The steward did not understand what was going on. He thought the little ancestors had randomly come up with an impractical idea. Xiao Bei rolled his eyes at the steward. "What's the point of changing the standard? I don't think changing the standard will solve the current problem. Do you see the people moving in a certain order? That way, they'll be more efficient. Put a few beams above the place where you're going. If a person carrying 2 bags wants to carry 3, he'll have to go over the beam to carry the 3rd bag. If he wants to go over, he'll have to squat. Put a few more beams on the beam. I don't believe he'll be able to keep squatting. Even if you put more beams on the beam, do you think he'll be able to walk while squatting? If he collapses from exhaustion after a few tries, he won't do that anymore. Huh? Put up beams? But their heights are different. The steward's eyes lit up. Then he thought of another problem. Can't you group them according to their approximate height? Xiao Bei asked. Yes, that's a good idea. The steward felt that it was a good idea and agreed. Xiao Bei continued to say, also, don't you think the pier looks uncomfortable? Don't you think you can make the pier slanted all the way to the carriages transporting the goods over there? Then you can slide the things that aren't afraid of falling down. You can use metal plates or cement. If it's cement, you can use a big pulley with wheels underneath. Now, you can just make a place to slow down the carriage. Are you stupid? The Ministry of Works has already designed big tools for you. Why can't you think of small tools for yourself? You're so rigid. Have you become stupid after staying in one place for so long? Yes, we've become stupid. Yes, we can design it. There are many things that don't need people to carry far away. If we want to put the carriage closer, the horses or mules won't be easy to handle. They're always messy and unhygienic. I'll go find someone else to think about it and make it. The steward didn't dare to refute. He couldn't refute. The little ancestor was right. He really hadn't thought about it. It was easy to make a place to slow down the carriage. He just had to make a bend or add some sand or slope underneath. If the design was good enough, he could even slide onto the carriage. It was just making the area below lower. Go. Find 7 spots for us. 2 of us will go out to play with Pan, and the others. The others can help record things together. Xiao Bei waved his hand and ordered. The steward immediately went to make the arrangements. Su Mingyang, who had been listening at the side, was surprised. He found that the 2 methods were very simple, but the effect was very good. Why didn't he think of it? Su Mingyang, do you think you're stupid? You've been in Luzhou for so long, and you're always trying to find loopholes in the original rules to show off your ability. However, the opportunity is right in front of you. You've been to the docks a lot, right? In the end, you've accomplished nothing. Tell me, what's the point of being the provincial governor? We're just asking you to do some work, but you feel wronged and degraded, don't you? If you don't want to work hard, all right, learn from us. If you want to be a mind worker who governs the people, a mind worker who governs the people, a mind worker who governs the people, it's not impossible. But you have to work hard for once. You have to show your ability to work hard. In the end, you can't work mentally, but you don't want to work physically. We let you be the provincial governor. Do you know what you're doing? It's called a corpse eating a vegetable position. We hate people like you the most. You're clearly not capable, but you still want to put on airs. It wasn't easy to find a suitable position for you, and you're still complaining. People can't be so shameless. All right, your son is here, so I'll give you some face. I'll go do my work. Pan, let's go. I'll take you to do the most noble thing. Xiao Bei reprimanded Su Mingyang, causing him to stare blankly. Then he pulled Pan away. Su Mingyang looked at the group of children and guards leaving. He suddenly came to his senses. He only came to his senses when his son, Su Wan, came over and spoke. He happened to hear his son say that Xiao Bei said no, and that he wasn't allowed to punish her at night. He immediately glared at his son. How old are you, child? You can't do anything well. Look at Xiao Bei and the others. They're almost the same as you. Which one of them isn't better than you? I can't see what you're capable of. All you know is to play and eat. Su Wan felt wronged. What did this have to do with him? Isn't Xiao Bei beside you now? If it was possible, didn't she agree to it? Then why are you throwing a tantrum at me? Neither of us succeeded. Why are you still in a daze? Think about it more. You're the same person, so how can you be worse than others? Su Mingyang continued lecturing his son. Su Wan didn't dare to resist. He only lowered his head and muttered, "Zhang Zhong isn't much worse than you. Why is it that the Ministry of Works wrote a letter? Hey, you still dare to talk back? I'll teach you a lesson." When Su Mingyang heard this, he became even angrier. Although Zhang Zhong's rank wasn't much worse than his, and was slightly higher than his, he was a capital official, and he was a local official. Even if Zhang Zhong was a 5th-rank capital official, he was still better than him, a 3rd-rank local official. He was already full of anger. His son actually dared to lecture him. He raised his hand and was about to hit him. Su Wan jumped in fright. He turned around and ran. As he ran, he shouted, "Father, Xiao Bei said you're not allowed to hit me. I went to play. I didn't get to play just now. You're pissing me off. When you came home at night, Xiao Bei said I'm not allowed to hit you. You think I just don't have the time. You only know how to play." When Su Mingyang shouted at his son, he was just about to say a few tough words when he felt Xiao Bei's gaze on him. He immediately changed his words. He was afraid of being remembered by Xiao Bei. When that time came, he didn't know what kind of fierce revenge he would have to endure. Who knew that even so, Xiao Bei still had no intention of letting him go. He shouted in his direction, "You only know how to complain about children. You compare children to others. Children are not allowed to compare their own elders to other people's elders. Only incompetent people scold children. Pan, be good. Let's not learn from him in the future, okay?" Xiao Bei didn't forget to use Su Mingyang as a negative example. Pan nodded obediently. She made a face at Su Mingyang and waved her fist. She shouted at him very seriously, "Incompetent, incompetent." Chapter 11:27. Su Mingyang was speechless when he heard Pan Er's tender voice. Apart from scolding his own son, who else in Luzhou would he dare to scold? Even Pan Er and Pan Er did not dare to scold them, let alone Little Bei and the other 9. Similarly, even the children of the ordinary people in Luzhou were not people he could scold. His position as the provincial governor was just for show. Although he was called a 3rd-grade official, he was actually here to be a grandson. His only function was to use his official seal to stamp the documents from the county below. It was a situation where he had no choice but to do so. Su Mingyang was in a bad mood. It was not because he was here to work. Anyway, he had already done it. It was useless to complain. Even if he had to work for a day, it would be embarrassing. The only thing that comforted him was that no one at the docks laughed at him because he lost the bet and came to work. He still did not understand why no one laughed at him. While he was in a bad mood, he continued to think about it. When he saw 7 people from Little Bei's side doing the work, he finally figured it out after thinking for a while. He saw several groups of people in front of Danan. They did not need Danan to remind them at all. After doing a lot of work, they went to rest, as if they were afraid that Danan would make things difficult for them. Only then did he understand that Little Bei and the other children had won the hearts of the people. In the eyes of the people of Luzhou, it was a very normal thing for him to lose. If he won, it would be abnormal. It turned out that he was so bad that he could not even compare to the children. It was no wonder that Little Bei belittled him and said that he did not educate the children well. It was true. If one said that Little Bei and the other 9 were born from a good mother, it was still possible to say that they were born from a good mother. They were that kind of child. Not only did they give birth to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, but they also had Little Bei and the others. However, among Little Bei's 9 children, only the children of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were born. There were 5 other children, and each of them was not bad at all. Coupled with Pan Er and Pan Er, no matter how one looked at it, they were better than children of the same age. Other children, like Pan Er and Pan Er, always liked to cry. However, Pan Er and Pan Er seemed to have never seen them cry until now. They were obedient when they should be, and when it was time to play, they were happy. None of this seemed to have anything to do with whose seed it was. But why? Other people's children were obedient because they were scared. When the adults spoke, especially when the father spoke, the children were afraid. They were afraid that they would be beaten or punished. On the other hand, Pan, and Wang didn't seem scared at all. They gave off the feeling that they could understand others, and they knew that they were still young, so they were very obedient. Especially when they looked at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang, there was a trace of worship and desire in their eyes. Could it be that he really did not know how to educate his child? However, she had never heard of how Zhang Zhong educated his children. It seemed that his children did not need to be taught anything since they were young. They were very sensible and sensible. Sigh. Child, is it really that tiring to teach a child? He needs the adults by his side all the time, but the adults also have things to do. It's a pity that he's not familiar with them, so it's impossible for him to throw his child over and ask them to help teach him. Su Mingyang muttered to himself as he thought about it. Then he suddenly came to his senses. He was afraid that he would delay things, so he looked at the people carrying the work. With just a glance, he was much more convinced. Ever since Xiao Bei and the children arrived, the people working at the docks suddenly became very self-aware. They didn't need anyone to control them at all. Those who had done enough work all went to rest by themselves. Moreover, they didn't cause trouble anymore. It was obvious what was going on. It was because the people working at the docks were afraid that Xiao Bei and the children would tire them out, so they all became obedient children. He was really a failure. He was not good at educating children, and he was still far behind when it came to the livelihood of the people. While Su Mingyang was blaming himself, he saw a person from the Chamber of Commerce bring a lot of people to the docks. Then they waited for a ship that had just finished unloading and reloading the goods to leave. When he saw that, he instantly understood. He knew why the local people loved Xiao Bei and the others so much. It was not only because of the ability of their father, Zhang Zhong, who was once the provincial governor of Luzhou. It was also not because they shared weal and woe together. It was because they had always put their hearts and minds on the people. It was just as Xiao Bei had said. He had been in Luzhou for some time, but he had never done anything useful for the local people. It was not that he wasn't smart enough. It was just that he had the wrong idea when he first came to Luzhou. He had also strolled around the docks before and understood the operation of the docks. However, what was his purpose? He didn't want to do anything for the people. Instead, he wanted to find a loophole in the rules set by the Chamber of Commerce that the Zhang family and the Wang family left here. He wanted to use this loophole to elevate his status and position. At that time, he didn't have the right idea. This was also why Xiao Bei and the others came up with various ideas after a discussion. To be honest, if he came up with this idea himself, he could definitely say that he had done a meritorious deed. After all, the Zhang family and the Wang family's work was not perfect. Otherwise, the person in charge would not have come here and let people work on the docks while the docks were empty. On one side, there was a downward slope, and on the other side, there was an upward slope. In this way, whether it was unloading or loading, it was very convenient. If that was the case, it meant that the original arrangement of the docks was not reasonable. There were improvements, but the other party discovered them. As a person who wanted to find faults, he did not think of it. Why? It was definitely not because the other party was smarter than him. It was because the group of children thought about how to make the people working at the docks more relaxed, while he thought about finding faults. One was for the people, and the other was for himself. Their mentality was different, and their gains and losses were different. Naturally, they considered things from different angles. No system is perfect. We're just constantly plugging the loopholes. The more timely we are, the more honored we are. This is the foundation of sociology, Su Mingyang muttered. This sentence was written by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang in the book. It was written at the top of the book on political economy. At the same time, they changed it slightly and wrote it at the front of the books on other subjects. It meant that we were always making mistakes. Our role was to make up for the loopholes and correct our mistakes while making mistakes. It was also because of this sentence that the craftsmen from the Ministry of Works and the people from the Medical Academy dared to try. They were not afraid of failure or difficulties. They just had to continue working hard and not put themselves in a position that was too sacred. After all, they were not gods. Therefore, the research progress of the Ministry of Works was very fast, and the development of the Medical Academy was amazing. What about him? What had he done? He did not seem to have done anything. There was only jealousy and filth left in his heart. Failure. This was a real failure. The others were not afraid of failure because of their actions, but his failure was because of his human nature. For a moment, Su Mingyang felt terrible. He realized that compared to a group of children, he was too narrow-minded. Moreover, it was a very small narrow-mindedness. I have to do something for the people of Luzhou. Even if it's just to help, it'll prove the value of my existence. Su Mingyang instantly had an idea. Then, he began to think about how he could help the people of Luzhou. He did not expect to be loved and respected by the people of Luzhou, but at the very least, he had to be worthy of himself and the days he spent in Luzhou. First, he thought of children. This was because Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan valued children the most. However, it seemed difficult to start with children. Luzhou had the most luxurious amusement park. Although the children from the distant county would not always come to play, they would still come to play for a few days during the long holidays. The amusement park was well equipped. Not only did it have slides and mirrors, but it also had a maze and a small swimming pool. When the railway between Luoyang and the capital was being built, Luzhou had already built a small train in the amusement park so that the children could understand it and the adults could push it. If an adult were to carry a child on his back, he would probably only be able to carry 4 or 5 of them before he would be exhausted. However, if he were to push a small train, he would be able to move a train that could carry dozens of children. Although it was very strenuous, he could still succeed. Usually, there were 4 adults. At first, they would push it slowly, but later, it could move. It seemed like all the best things in Great Tang were given to Luzhou first. Even if the train was not a steam engine, it was still amazing. The children could play with it, and the adults could hear the children's cheerful laughter as they pushed the train while waiting for the train. Why was this so? It was said that it was because the friction was small. He had read in a book that the original sliding motion had turned into rolling, just like a wheel. Wheel? Carriage? Track? Train? As Su Mingyang thought about it, he suddenly scared himself. He thought of a very good idea. He saw the people working at the docks, and also saw the people unloading and loading the goods. Suddenly, he had a very strange idea. "Steward Zhang, come here, come here. I have something to tell you," Su Mingyang shouted at the steward of the Chamber of Commerce, who was watching the construction work. When the steward of the Chamber of Commerce heard the call, he immediately came over and said respectfully, "Lord Su, what's the matter?" Although he knew that he could ignore Luzhou's position as the provincial governor, he had to show a good attitude. Otherwise, people would think that the Zhang family and Wang family were not good at governing. Seeing the steward's attitude, Su Mingyang praised in his heart. As expected of someone from a big family, he was much better than his own family. Before he came to Luzhou, his status was not low. Therefore, even the gatekeeper would show a disdainful attitude to people who asked to see him. At that time, he thought it was normal. After all, his status was there, and the servants in his family were naturally superior. Now, he knew that arrogance did not mean that the more powerful the servants were, the better. It was like a dog. A dog that barked at everyone it saw was definitely not a good dog. Jealousy rose in Su Mingyang's heart again. He said to the steward of the Chamber of Commerce, "I've thought of a way to make the transportation speed of the docks faster. That is, we can install rails at the docks. When the goods are unloaded, we can put the goods and the carts on the rails and push them away according to the slope you designed. Even if it's not a slope, the rails will be easier to carry than people. It's the same when we load the goods. We can even directly connect one end of the rails to the gangplank of the cargo ship in front. When the time comes, we can just adjust the position slightly. What do you think? When Su Mingyang said these words, he did not have much confidence in his heart. He put himself in the other's shoes. If he suddenly heard someone come up with such an idea, although he knew it was a good idea, he would try to find fault with it and then reject the other's proposal. Only in this way could he show that he was better than others and not inferior to others. He had done this before. His subordinates had given him a method, saying that it could increase the financial income by 1 or 2%, making the people slightly richer. When he saw it at that time, he sneered. It was only 1 or 2%. If he used it, wouldn't he be thinking too highly of his subordinates? What did it have to do with him if the people were a little richer? He had to suppress it. Otherwise, he would think that he had the ability. He even had to use the method of nitpicking, refuting that there was nothing good about it, telling him that he had to do his job properly and not be whimsical. The purpose was to consolidate his prestige. Even if he knew that it was a good idea, but if he did not use it, what could he do? Therefore, after saying his idea, Su Mingyang regretted it. He waited for the people of the Chamber of Commerce to use the same method to deal with him. In the end, after waiting and waiting, Su Mingyang did not hear any unpleasant words from the other party. He only saw the other party pondering there. Just as he could not help but want to change his words, the person in charge of the Chamber of Commerce suddenly said, "Good." As expected, the provincial governor is the provincial governor. No wonder His Majesty arranged for you to come here. Good idea. I will immediately have people to design the rail system of the entire dock. Lord Su, you have helped a lot. With your method, not only did it save labor, but it also shortened the unloading and loading time. Lord Su, don't worry. There will be great rewards. Su Mingyang said doubtfully. He did not expect things to go so smoothly. The other party had no intention of suppressing him at all. So he said with a smile, "Manager Zhang, I was just saying casually. It was all because of what Xiao Bei and the others said before that inspired me. You can say that it was your own idea. There is no need to mention me. I will continue to do my own thing." Lord Su, don't be modest. Your method is your method. I dare not take it on myself. First, I don't want to. If I have the ability to think of it, then it is definitely my own. If I don't have the ability, then there is no need to be greedy. Second, once it is discovered, I am finished. The main family hates this kind of thing the most. Ability can be cultivated, but loyalty must be guaranteed. The main family's request is that if I am in charge of the affairs of the subordinates, and the subordinates come up with a good idea, they will be rewarded, and I will be rewarded even more. Even if their ability surpasses mine, I do not need to worry about losing my position. Therefore, you do not need to think about anything else. I will take care of it. When the time comes, you just need to wait for our reward. When we estimate the cost savings of this method, there will be a large sum of money for you. The manager of the Chamber of Commerce said to Su Mingyang, then turned and hurriedly left. He really did want to study what Su Mingyang said. Su Mingyang was stunned. He did not expect that the other party would say what he was worried about so clearly, and even give a guarantee. No wonder the subordinates of the Zhang family and Wang family were better than those of other families. It turned out that the subordinates of other families, even if they had a good idea in a certain aspect, usually did not dare to say it out loud. Directly telling the master of the main family? If the master of the main family valued it and did not care about the housekeeper's words, then the subordinate's good luck had come. If the master of the main family had an indifferent expression, but at the same time felt that the subordinate had overstepped his boundaries, then the subordinate would be in trouble. Even if the master of the main family did not deal with the subordinate, the housekeeper would find a way to persecute the subordinate. This was a provocation to power. He did not expect that the Zhang family and Wang family had another method. When the subordinates thought of a method, they could directly tell the manager, and the manager would report it. Once the method was effective, not only would the subordinates be rewarded, but the manager would also be rewarded. It seems that I have to learn from my own family. After all, one person's ideas are short. Who said that subordinates can't be smart? After all, The people who take care of the flower garden all year round are familiar with the situation of a land in the courtyard. The people who are in charge of the woodshed all year round must know what kind of firewood is good to burn. But they only remember it in their hearts and do not say it out loud. They are afraid that not only will they not benefit from saying it out loud, but they will also suffer. Su Mingyang looked at the departing figure of the Chamber of Commerce's manager and muttered. He finally figured it out and planned to learn from him. Otherwise, it would be troublesome to manage the affairs of the family in the future. The next day, when Su Mingyang arrived at the dock early in the morning, he saw that several places at the dock had been sealed off. The other ships had all unloaded and moved to another part of the dock. For a moment, it seemed crowded. Seeing this scene, Su Mingyang finally believed that his method was valued by the Zhang family and Wang family. His mood suddenly became better, and his whole body relaxed a lot. It was not because his method was valued, but because once it was used, he estimated that he did not need to continue to be afraid of the revenge of the Zhang family and Wang family. He thought that when he left office, not only would he get the money that he should have received before, but he would also receive additional gifts. Although the dock was a little busy now, he thought that after a few days, the railroad tracks would be finished, and he would be able to increase the throughput of goods. This was his own merit. He had to work harder and think of a better method. With this thought in mind, Su Mingyang was suddenly shocked. He found that he actually liked to do things for the Zhang family and Wang family, just to be recognized by them. After thinking carefully, he felt that this fact was really ridiculous. But why did he feel so good? Was he really a wretch? Perhaps this is the real charm of the Zhang family and Wang family. Others always want to be recognized by them. Even enemies, as long as they have been in contact with them for a long time, they will also have the same idea. No wonder so many people are willing to work for them and follow them from thousands of miles away. A new feeling appeared in Su Mingyang's heart. Just as he was sighing with emotion, someone did come from thousands of miles away, and also brought a few people with him. However, they did not come to claim credit, but to ask for punishment. There was a big ship at the dock today. Judging from the mark, it was Japanese, but the workmanship was from the Tang Dynasty. It was probably rented from Japan. When the ship had just docked at the dock and the gangplank was still shaking, a person impatiently jumped off. Chapter 1128. People were still coming and going at the dock, and it did not change at all because of the arrival of a Japanese ship. Even though Lu Zhou's people knew what had happened in Jiangnan province some time ago, it was not that they did not hate the Japanese, but they did not take them seriously. For the people of Lu Zhou, Japan was not a threat. If Governor Zhang's family was willing, they could send a fleet directly from Lu Zhou. Even if they could not destroy Japan at once, they could at least prevent them from going to sea. If they wanted to eat fish, they could find the rivers on the various islands of Japan to catch fish. Therefore, when they found a Japanese ship docked at the dock today, the people doing business at the dock just glanced over and knew it was the Japanese, so they continued with their business. They were not interested in the purpose of the Japanese at all. The Emperor, Xiao Bao, and Cuckoo were all there, so they believed that the Japanese were definitely not here to look for trouble. Su Mingyang was also watching. He knew a little more than the people of Lu Zhou, so he understood that the Japanese were afraid of being beaten. On the way to His Majesty's palace, Xiao Bei had received him. Someone had hurried back. Calculating the time, it was about time to meet the person who went back. He saw a person jump off the ship first, and then he waved at the ship. Many people followed him. Some of them were tied with ropes and were pushed to the shore. Yo! They are playing the trick of injuring themselves to gain sympathy and sending scapegoats? Poor people, poor Japanese ruling class. They are so scared. Unfortunately, it's useless. You don't know what Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan are planning this time. They want your country to fall. It's not just a matter of extortion. Seeing the situation of the Japanese, Su Mingyang immediately knew what the other party was up to. So he sighed with emotion. He thought that he knew Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan well. The two of them would not let Japan go. Although they usually did things, they always liked to leave a way out for others, such as what happened to him a few days ago. However, leaving a way out referred to the people of Great Tang, not to the outside world. It was not so easy to talk to the outside world. Leaving a line for internal affairs is magnanimous, but leaving a line for external affairs is weakness. Especially when it came to the Jiangnan Dao, Su Mingyang felt that he could analyze it, let alone the people in the imperial court. The Jiangnan Dao incident seemed to be a joint effort of many small countries and tribes. It gave people the feeling that the law couldn't punish the majority. Everyone's plan had been seen through, so everyone just had to apologize and be done with it. But the matter itself was definitely not so simple. There had to be someone leading. If it was said that a group of people from a small place in the southwest would come out to lead something, Su Mingyang would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. Unless the Southwest imperial edicts wanted to exterminate them. Since it was impossible for them to be from the 6th Zhao, then who was their leader? Clearly it was the Japanese. Duoshu really did want to go to war with the Great Tang. To be more precise, the Great Tang made it look like it was going to attack Duoshu. Ever since the Tibetans and the Turks no longer posed a threat and the Great Tang had submitted, the Great Tang's army had turned to them. Su Mingyang felt that even if he were the one making decisions about the Great Tang, he would still continue to expand, especially in the west. Whether it was in the southwest or the northwest, there were large tracts of land that had yet to be occupied. There was a road from that side that merchants would always use, and they knew that there were things that the Great Tang lacked. Of course, the northeast also had its fair share of good things, especially after Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had taken over. They had pushed quite a bit of distance into the northeast. Each year, they would send a batch of precious items to various parts of the Great Tang. But the winters in the northeast were truly too cold, and there were many wild beasts and few people. If they wanted to continue to occupy, there was no need to be in too much of a hurry. The natives there posed no threat. Thus, they could only set their sights on the Duoshu, who told them to have the power of religion. They could not be given a chance to develop, and they certainly could not be allowed to act prematurely. Thus, it was reasonable to say that the Duoshu wanted to cause trouble. The problem was that the Duoshu didn't seem to have a very good understanding of the Great Tang's Jiangnan path. Only the Japanese, who had the convenience of the sea, were able to establish a close relationship with the Great Tang seaports. At the same time, they also had an intelligence network. The Duoshu were nothing more than a support to confuse the people with religion. The Japanese were the culprits. They had a perfect plan, and at the same time, they had integrated the resources of the other people, changed the religion, and arranged for the people of the 6th Zhao, who were familiar with the mountains and forests, to be stationed at Mount Lu. Since that was the case, how could Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan not have thought of it? So, Japan could forget about having a good time. The people who came to Luzhou today, let alone the scapegoats of the various Japanese clans, even if their own clan leaders came, it would be useless. Su Mingyang watched as the Japanese disembarked from the ships, thinking to himself. The only thing he could not understand was why Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had not sent troops to attack Japan earlier. With the Great Tang's fleet, it would have been too easy for them to occupy a place to disembark. At that time, they would be able to continuously transport soldiers over, and then the cannons would open the way, the infantry would advance, and the navy would support them from the side. There would also be hot air balloons in the sky. In less than a year, they would be able to flatten Japan. However, the truth was that the two of them were indifferent. Apart from making a fuss, they did not do anything else. It gave the impression that they had endured this matter, and even gave the other party a chance to negotiate. Most of the Great Tang's forces were gathered in Jiannan. In the name of helping the Tubo disaster relief, many people had gone there, including those who could fight and those who could support logistics. They looked as if they were going to attack the Duoshu. Then, they just left the soldiers there and did not move. Instead, the imperial court sent out generals to attack and harass the Duoshu. To be more precise, Wang Wan took advantage of the Great Tang's advantage of having many horses and the shortcoming of the Duoshu telling the great Tang generals to go over and play a magnetic tactic with the Duoshi. The great Tang's army was divided into waves and engaged in actual combat. At the same time, the speed of the advance and the ratio of casualties were limited. What exactly was Wang Wan planning to play? If he were in the position of the two of them, with the current economic foundation of the great Tang as a backing, he would have already attacked. Yet, the two of them were walking slowly, giving the impression that they were in their 70s or 80s. He had never seen such a clingy person. They actually brought His Majesty to Luzhou to play. Nominally, they were going to look at the railway, but what was there to look at? It did not matter whether they looked at it or not. Could it be that the speed of cultivation would double just by looking at it? I really don't understand. Could it be that they think that the great Tang is already doing well and have lost the desire to improve? If that's the case, perhaps there will be internal strife in the great Tang. While thinking about this matter, Su Mingyang walked to the side where tea and soup were provided. He asked for a bowl of hot tea, sat on a stool, and drank 2 mouthfuls before sighing in puzzlement. As soon as he finished speaking, a child's voice suddenly sounded from behind him. Su Mingyang, as an official of the imperial court, you don't want to build a good place. Instead, you're thinking about internal strife in the great Tang. Do you know that your words will shake the hearts of the ordinary people? Su Mingyang was startled. He turned around and saw Zhang Xiaobei and 11 other people standing behind him. Each of them was holding an ice cream cone and eating it. Pan, and the other 2 little ones had eaten all over their faces, and their little hands were full of sticky juice. However, they still tried to eat and refused to let others help them. Su Mingyang hastily explained, I speak softly. Besides, this is Luzhou. How can the hearts of the people be shaken? How can I hear you if you speak softly? If you think that the people of Luzhou will not be affected by your words, then you should say it. After a long time, you should develop a habit. Tell me, what is it that you don't know? I'll explain it for you. Don't make wild guesses. Xiaobei glared at Su Mingyang and said with a dignified look on his face. Su Mingyang smiled. He looked at Xiaobei and said, Oh? Inspector Zhang, do you know? Xiaobei nodded. I know a thing or two. I'm going to ask. I want to know why your brother and sister are not fighting Japan or Duoshi now. Su Mingyang did not hold back. Xiaobei took a bite of ice cream and said, Who said they are not fighting? Duoshi is fighting now. Isn't a small-scale war a war? A small-scale war is called friction, okay? If we can't kill one person in half a day, we won't get any results, even if we fight for a year. Duoshi can keep sending troops. Even if they are further away, they can still make it in time. After waiting for a long time, their main force will be there, and we will be caught off guard. Can you understand? Su Mingyang was amused when he heard Xiaobei say this to him. He decided to help Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan teach their sister. When the time comes, they should be able to owe him a favor, right? Unexpectedly, not only did Xiaobei not show an expression of being taught, but he curled his lips and said, Su Mingyang, do you know that they can gather many people after a long time? Not bad, you are a little smart. I want to ask you, how long will it take for them to gather? And how many people can they gather? In my opinion, a year's time is enough. Even if the journey is long, if you don't take the opportunity to destroy their vanguard now and occupy the advantageous terrain when their main forces arrive, it will be difficult to deal with your family. You are fighting now using cannons and guns. Your sister also stipulated that there should not be too many casualties. When the time comes, they should learn how to guard against it. When the army rushes in, if your sister wants to use cannons and other weapons to fight, the effect will definitely be far worse. If it were me, I would immediately go to Tubo, where your family's Qinghai Lake is located, and gather the troops to kill Duoshi's vanguard, so that they can't figure out the situation and understand our tactics thoroughly. Then they will continue to lead the army forward and take down all of Duoshi in one go. As Su Mingyang spoke, he picked up a broken shell on the ground and drew a map at his feet for Xiaobei and the others to see, not caring whether they could understand it or not. Xiao Bei looked at the map, picked up a shell, and filled in the places that Su Mingyang didn't draw, and said to him, "This is where Duo Shi is. How long do you think it will take for us to fight our way there?" So big? Su Mingyang really didn't know how big Duo Shi's territory was. When he saw what Xiao Bei drew, he also knew the difference between the distance on the map and the actual distance. So he said in surprise, "How big do you think it is? Even if we advance at full speed, what do we use to push? Can our people adapt to the local climate? Do they have a good relationship with the locals? Have the intelligence troops infiltrated? Do you think that war is about who has more soldiers, who has more brave soldiers, and who has more advanced weapons? Brother and sister are fighting an all-around war. We will first carry out small battles here, giving Duo Shi a chance to get familiar with us. Let's make them not dare to immediately send all of their main forces to us without knowing our strategy. Let's add fuel to the fire and follow up on other aspects. We'll sow discord among them, bribe their local people to help, and destroy their economic foundation. Then, when we finally deal with them, I thought that you were smarter, but I didn't expect you to be so stupid. Do you see that the great Tang's imperial court is now rich, and think that you can squander it? Don't you see the crisis that the great Tang is in now? There needs to be a purpose in war, other than occupying other people and plundering their resources. We also need to shift the internal conflicts out. Our great Tang won't take too long to. I won't tell you, so you can guess for yourself. In any case, it's not as easy as you think. When we really fight, we have to go back and forth. For example, when our logistics can't keep up, we need to stop and negotiate with them, giving them space to play. Once the logistics are ready, we can continue fighting, just like how I dealt with you, dragging you back and forth. If not for brother and sister speaking up, I would have tortured you for a period of time before I was satisfied. Xiao Bei acted like a teacher as he spoke to Su Mingyang. Su Mingyang's eyes went round and his mouth dropped open. This was especially true for the last sentence, which scared Su Mingyang. It turned out that he still had to thank Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. After Xiao Bei's explanation, Su Mingyang had a rough idea of what was going on, but he still refused to admit defeat. I know Duo Shi, but we have to take it slow. Japanese. Could it be that your family's fleet can't break through? What family? It's the great Tang's, okay? Don't speak nonsense. My family only has a few servants assigned according to their rank and no other armed forces. Do you admit it? Xiao Bei hurriedly corrected him. I admit it. The great Tang's fleet. Why can't the great Tang's fleet attack? Su Mingyang readily agreed. Because if we fight now, we will lack manpower to help build the railway. Once the war starts, the two countries will be hostile, and it will be much more troublesome to get people from Japan to help build the railway. Unless we capture their people, it will also be difficult to manage them. Once they flatten the railway, the Great Tang's railway will be delayed for a long time. It's not worth it, so we have to use a soft knife. Unless Japan takes the initiative to start the war, we can only use coercion to make the Japanese compromise step by step, like drinking poison to quench thirst. Even if the Japanese know that the final result won't be good, they won't dare to lightly start a war. They can only look for other ways to solve it. If they change a matter that should be a military conflict to diplomacy, the effect won't be worse than directly attacking. Understand? You play here by yourself. I'm going back. I have to personally meet Takeshita Junichiro. Come, Pan. Let sister wash your face. You ate until you become a little kitten. Xiao Bei said a few words to Su Mingyang, then pulled Pan, who had just finished eating and felt that her face and hands were uncomfortable, over to the side to find cold water and wash her. Su Mingyang looked at the 11 children and left in the car. Recalling what he had just said, he muttered, "What's there to show off about? Wasn't it your brother and sister who told you? Children, do you really think you know a lot?" Chapter 1129. Su Mingyang couldn't see the carriage that Xiao Bei and the others were in. He turned his head and saw many people at the dock busily unloading gifts for the Tang Empire from the Japanese ships. He shook his head and whispered, "You are even more foolish. The Tang Empire is not the Tang Empire of the past. In the past, you sent a bunch of worthless things, and the Emperor would give you more rewards. Every time you came to make money. Now, it's useless to send anything. At most, you will be given some coupons, and you can only spend them in the designated places of the Tang Empire. There is no cheap thing in the designated places. We are going to deal with you soon, but you still foolishly sent people to ask for peace. If it were me, I would directly call back all the Japanese in the Tang Empire and then fight to the death. The Tang Empire can't attack immediately. There is still duosure. Then, we will secretly send people to the battlefield where the Tang Empire and duosure are fighting to understand the various tactics of the Tang Empire. At the same time, we will recruit good craftsmen in the country and work hard to develop advanced technology. Even if we can't make guns and cannons in a short time, we will try to make our weapons better. Also, we will send the children to a distant place under the protection of the military. Even if some of them are swallowed by the waves, we will leave behind some seeds. The rest of the Japanese will be able to fight to the death when the Tang Empire is free. The Tang Empire may not be able to kill all the Japanese in 3 to 5 years. At that time, surrendering will be better than what we are doing now." Su Mingyang felt sad for the Japanese. They lacked courage. Otherwise, how could they be bullied so badly by the Tang Empire and have to use people to take a blame? How sad would the people who were chosen feel? Su Mingyang thought very well, but he thought of it now that he knew the layout of the Tang Empire. As he watched the Japanese unload the goods, another person's voice came from behind him. "Lord Su, you have a good idea. I admire you, I really admire you. Can you people from the Zhang family and Wang family not be so scary? Can't you show your face in front of me when you speak?" Su Mingyang, who was frightened again, looked back and saw that it was a manager of the Chamber of Commerce. He sighed and said helplessly, "I didn't want to scare Lord Su. I just happened to be behind you and thought that Lord Su heard my footsteps. So I said those words. Lord Su, please don't blame me. It's just that I don't agree with Lord Su's words and have some other thoughts." The manager of the Chamber of Commerce apologized with a smile and began to object to Su Mingyang's words. Su Mingyang asked gloomily, "Oh, do you have a different opinion too? Tell me about it." "Yes, I was thinking about it. Although Japan currently has the emperor, there are also other clans. Some are in favor of war, while others are in favor of peace. The Japanese coming to the Great Tang to cause trouble was definitely arranged by those in favor of war. If their plan in the Jiangnan circuit had succeeded, and if their backup plans in other parts of the Great Tang had also succeeded while the Great Tang was in chaos, they would have the right to speak in the country. But they failed, and they didn't cause any major losses to the Great Tang. Instead, they provoked a backlash from the Great Tang. Thus, someone had to bear the responsibility. Their prestige in Japan would definitely plummet. At this critical time, they still want to fight to the death with the Great Tang. Before the Great Tang soldiers can go, their heads will be cut off by the peace faction and sent to the Great Tang to ask for peace. Of course, I don't think they are afraid of death. What they are afraid of is that once their entire faction is finished, Japan will have no hope and will be wiped out by the Great Tang through various means. Thus, in order to preserve a little seed, they can only choose to make concessions in the country and endure humiliation in order to make a comeback. It was precisely because the young master and young lady had considered this that they did not immediately send troops to attack. Instead, they mobilized the army to put pressure on the other side and make them compromise. Otherwise, if they really did go to war, they would immediately be able to unite in the face of this crisis. In this way, the young master and young lady's early efforts would truly have been for naught, and they would have wasted their time without obtaining any benefits. This truly was not worth it. War was like a business. If the cost was too high, there would be no profit. This was a business that would lose money. If you want to lose money and make money, you shouldn't put it on the Japanese. Japan has already been suppressed, so there's no need to continue making money. If you don't believe me, Lord Su, the two of us can make a bet. Before the new year, Japan will completely lose its ability to fight. I'm willing to bet 10,000 strings of cash. What does Lord Su think? The manager of the conglomerate spoke of his thoughts and proposed a bet with Su Mingyang. Ugh, there's no need. This official doesn't have that much money to bet, and gambling is not good. It's better for people to earn money honestly. After all, gambling is not the right path. Su Mingyang did not dare to accept. As the manager of the conglomerate spoke, he also realized that Japan had probably begun to engage in various struggles for power. There were countless schemes, but they were not aimed at the Great Tang, but at other powers. Before the Great Tang could even fight, his own country was already in chaos. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were truly capable. It was no wonder that they did not directly go to war. Chaos was good for them. Moreover, when he thought about the Great Tang's current situation, Su Mingyang couldn't help but sigh. The Great Tang was much better. At the very least, when the Great Tang said that it was going to fight, no officials in the imperial court objected. Even the scholars did not appear to complain that war was wrong. This was because Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were using the excuse of helping the people of other countries to live better lives and to educate them. This was justifiable in the grand scheme of things. The simplest example was in the northern part of Hebei province. Because they could not survive, the people who fled and the locals of the Great Tang formed a new county. Their lives were clearly better, and they were in a very comfortable situation. This proved that the rulers of Xinluo did not treat their people well. There were still many people in the world who needed the help of the Great Tang. Even if they used war to overthrow the original ruling class, although the process was painful, the results were good. The most important thing is that the Great Tang is now rich and has advanced weapons. No one in the imperial court is against war. If the poor people keep revolting in various places, not to mention war, as long as the national treasury takes out money to do anything, many people will stand up to oppose. As Su Mingyang thought about it, he was even more convinced of the fact that war was fought for money. You go about your business first. This official will look around and see if I can think of a better idea to help the local people solve some practical problems. It's not easy to be the provincial governor of Luzhou. Su Mingyang waved his hand at the manager of the conglomerate and stood up, intending to take a stroll. Lord Su, are you sure you don't want to gamble? In fact, you can be rich. When the new year comes, as long as you don't do anything else, you can get a comfortable reward. It's more than the previous one. The previous one didn't come up with a good idea to build railway tracks at the docks. The manager continued to ask. At the same time, he reminded Su Mingyang that the more things he did for the local people, the more rewards he would get when the time came. Su Mingyang continued to wave his hand. There's no need. I never bet with people. After saying that, he continued to walk to the unloading ship. He wanted to come up with a better idea. Even if it was a little more efficient, he could get more rewards. He was really tempted by the manager's words. It was not only to get more money, but more importantly, if he took more money, he could give an explanation to the people who supported him behind the scenes. He wanted to show them that he, Su Mingyang, was not just a person who came to Luzhou to mess around. Compared to the previous ones, he was a capable person. There would definitely be no problem for him to continue to support him in the future. Lord Su, you're here. Su Mingyang had just stood beside one of the unloading ships when someone greeted him warmly. He turned to look. Wei Wei nodded. However, he did not know the other party. However, he knew he must have come up with a good idea that had gained some recognition from the locals. Otherwise, he would be like before. No matter where he went, as long as he did not take the initiative to speak, others would treat him as if he was invisible. They would stand beside him, but they would not speak to him. They would not even look at him. It was depressing. When Su Mingyang thought about this, he felt that it was easy to be the provincial governor of a province, especially the provincial governor of a small province. There were very few counties under the jurisdiction of a province. If he really became a provincial governor, he would just have to wander around and see the situation at the bottom. With what he had learned, it was not too difficult. Even if he could come up with useful ideas for a county every month and improve the lives of hundreds of people, he would still gain a lot in a year. Moreover, if he did not have any special opportunities, he would not be able to leave after a year as the provincial governor of a province. Many times he would have to stay for 3 to 5 years or even die of old age. Of course, in the current Great Tang, if a provincial governor was truly capable, he would not die of old age unless he was already old when he became provincial governor. As long as he was willing to do practical things for the people and improve their lives, even if a province had 10 counties, he would be able to help tens of thousands of people in 5 years if he helped a few hundred people every month. The people did not have knowledge. Could it be that the officials of the current era who had studied political economy and had the opportunity to report things they did not understand to the officials in the capital? After receiving guidance, would they not be able to solve the problems of the people's lives? If that was really the case, not to mention dying of old age in the position of provincial governor, he would probably be impeached before he could even hold the position for long. The current Great Tang was still better. Although Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were a little too domineering, their eyes were very bright. They usually collected intelligence on places and found that the officials of a place were really capable. After the officials made achievements, if the people of the imperial court did not care about them, they would immediately promote them through another channel. This gave the officials hope. They knew that as long as they put their mind on the people's lives, they did not need to spend money to curry favor with the higher-ups to be promoted. They also did not need to worry that they would say something wrong and offend the higher-ups and be suppressed by the higher-ups. If the officials dared to suppress them after they made achievements, the higher-ups would be the ones to suffer before the officials. I guess I can't think of a better way to do things at the docks. Do I have to find other places that are not perfect? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were too hateful. They had planned Lu Zhou so well that they could not find any new ideas even if they wanted to. Farming, breeding, tourism, and seafood processing, they had everything. Moreover, the roads were also built. Where should I start? It's difficult. If there's no other way, I'll just take a look at the county below. After all, there's no one waiting for me. I don't have to worry about wasting manpower and money. Su Mingyang wanted to reap more benefits and was prepared to continue working hard. However, he suddenly realized that it was too difficult to do anything outstanding. However, he did not give up. He did not believe that all the plans were perfect. Even if they were perfect in the past, as the place developed, there would be new areas that could be improved. If he seized the opportunity, he would be able to earn more money. With that thought in mind, Su Mingyang left the docks and found a carriage. He instructed a servant beside him to return to the mansion and report that he was going to the county below. Then he sat in the carriage and waved his hand. With great ambition, he made his way to the county. Compared to Su Mingyang's ambition, Takeshita Junichiro was trembling with fear. He took a few people who had lost in the family struggle as scapegoats and rushed to Lu Zhou as quickly as he could. At first, he was happy because the Emperor of Great Tang, Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan had not left Lu Zhou for the time being. The information he had gathered in Hangzhou had not left him in vain. Otherwise, if he was late, who knew what Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan would think? Would they think that he was stalling for time and send troops? However, as soon as he arrived at the docks, before he could ask where the Emperor of Great Tang was, he first learned from the conversations of the local people that Nanzhao had sent people over. Moreover, they had received a certain level of understanding and would send more leaders over soon. He did not know if they were going to be beheaded or locked up. Perhaps what he did not want the most was to be forgiven by Great Tang. If that was the case, Japan was in danger. When his ship passed by Chuanzhou, the information he received there was not very favorable to Japan. The Duoqi people had moved, and then the Tang army had moved as well. When he first received the news, he was happy for a moment. However, who knew that before he could finish being happy, he received the following information. Duo Qi first gathered 2,000 people, then continued to gather thousands of people, but they did not send them forward. What could 2,000 people fight? They were not the Zhang family's or Wang family's protection team. If it was a 2,000-strong protection team, perhaps they would have a very strong combat power. They would not be at a disadvantage when facing an ordinary 20,000 to 30,000 army. But did Duo Qi have that ability? 2,000 people. The cavalry guarding Qinghai Lake would be gone in a circle. They did not even need to use cannons. They just needed to organize the cavalry and attack. Although Duo Qi was also a cavalry, when the two armies were close to each other, the cavalry of Great Tang had guns. Those called rifles might not be very accurate when they were moving, but how could the troops of the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families not have guns? Guns were too disgusting. When the two sides were close to each other, they would be shot down by guns. Could it be that Duo Qi did not know and ran over to die? However, the next news he heard was even more uncomfortable. The Great Tang had sent troops, but they were not the local soldiers of the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families who had actual combat experience. Instead, they were the soldiers from Shannan West and Jiannan West, and they were small batches. At the same time, the general sent by the Great Tang was not from the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families, but the commander of the Great Tang Military Academy. From the intelligence, it was obvious that the Great Tang and Duo Qi were playing. Now, the news that Lu Zhou received said that the leader of the 6 Zhao had come. If they were fine and the Great Tang did not send troops to fight, would the Great Tang's troops just stay there? Thinking about it, it was impossible. Who would they attack? Fighting Xian Luo? With Xian Luo's current state, why would they need the Great Tang to fight? If the troops in Jili province went over, they would just directly occupy it. It was that simple. Since they could not fight Xian Luo, who else could they fight? The only one left was Japan. Could it be that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wen wanted to gather their troops to attack Japan? What should they do? With these thoughts in mind, Takeshita Junichiro set off for Lu Zhou's mansion. He needed to enter the mansion first before he could apply to see the Emperor of the Great Tang. Even if he applied, it might not be approved. Along the way, Takeshita Junichiro deliberately slowed down. Occasionally, when he met a citizen of Lu Zhou, he would give them some benefits. Then, he would ask about recent events in Lu Zhou, especially if there were any movements in the southwest. He wanted to gather more information. This time, Takeshita Junichiro had brought many gifts to Great Tang. The most direct was silver. 3 million taels of silver were temporarily in Hangzhou. Along with the ship were corals, large abalones, and dried abalones that had been there for several years. These were all things that the great families of Japan had taken out from their homes. Otherwise, they would not have been able to gather them. Takeshita Junichiro found this incredible. The economy of Japan was developing normally, and every time they traded with the Great Tang, they would get a lot of money from the Great Tang, which they could use to buy things back. At the same time, countless merchants from the Great Tang went to Japan to do business, especially with the development of tourism. In this way, Japan should be very rich. Moreover, they had rented ships from the Great Tang to go overseas. For now, only a few ships were out there. It was not that they did not want to send more, but the Great Tang had stopped renting ships. The gunships and steam engine ships out there had not received orders from a Great Tang yet. They hoped that they would not return too quickly and would stay out there to plunder more things. Since they had developed increased trade and had money, why couldn't Japan take out money? Where did all the money go? Takeshita Junichiro could not understand. The more they developed, the poorer they became. Japan's national treasury was empty, and the Japanese people could not fork out more money. If they were forced to collect money, it would not be difficult to gather 10 million strings of coins. However, no one dared to do so. Moreover, 10 million strings of coins would not be much if they were distributed to everyone. What was the reason? The more Takeshita Junichiro thought about it, the more confused he became. He had to analyze the information he heard from the people in Lu Zhou. It did not take long for him to feel a splitting headache. Yamamoto and Yamamoto were just as uncomfortable as Takeshita Junichiro. They had been temporarily conscripted and had given up on their original tasks to accompany him. It was not that no one from Japan could come, but even if they came, it would be useless. The Great Tang was developing too quickly. It changed every month. It would take a long time for people from Japan to familiarize themselves with the Great Tang situation, let alone come and talk to the Great Tang's emperor. Yamamoto and Yamamoto often traveled between the Great Tang and Japan. At the same time, they collected all kinds of information in the Great Tang and tried their best to learn as much knowledge as the Great Tang could teach them. Even though they knew that the Great Tang would not teach them advanced technology, they still earnestly learned what they could. It was mainly because of the teacher who was teaching. Even though he had already received instructions, he would still inadvertently say something that he shouldn't have said during the lesson. They also kept in touch with the students of the Great Tang. From time to time, they would hold banquets or poetry gatherings. They would continue to collect information and learn while having fun and chatting. Yamamoto and Yamamoto had worked very hard. When they held banquets, they were willing to spend money. No matter how much money they spent, as long as it could make the students of the Great Tang happy, they were willing to spend it. But usually, the two of them were very thrifty. They cooked their own meals and never went out to eat. If they went out to eat, they would spend more money. They gathered the people sent from Japan and took turns to cook every day. They ate the most ordinary food according to the season. They ate whatever was cheap. At the same time, when they had free time, they would lead the other Japanese to do small business. Real business was not the kind of business that was swindling. Even if they wanted to, they did not dare to do so. With their intelligence, they could earn a few hundred strings of coins every month. Then they would subsidize it into the activity funds provided by the country. They continued to treat the students of the Great Tang to eat, drink, and play, all so that they could obtain useful information from the mouths of others. Their clothes were usually made of linen. They only wore a few sets of pure cotton and silk clothes. They would only wear them during poetry gatherings to appear more presentable. They even found a mountainous area outside the Four Seas Academy and reclaimed it. They planted some crops and raised a few chickens. This way, they could save a lot of money. However, even with such hard work, what would come eventually. Seeing that someone in the country had come up with a bad idea and had been seen through, the movement of the Great Tang's troops was unknown, and the Great Tang's attitude was unclear as well. The two of them were anxious, like Takeshita Junichiro. Reward. Takeshita Junichiro said to Yamamoto, who was sitting in a carriage. He had just asked a citizen of Luzhou some questions, so it was time for him to pay. Yamamoto immediately produced a 50 strings of coins and passed it to Takeshita Junichiro. Then he turned around and continued to eat the free soup provided by the docks. He held a buckwheat biscuit with salted vegetables in it. He took a bite and chewed twice. It was delicious. At the very least, it was better than going hungry. More importantly, it was cheap. 1 copper coin could buy 3 caddies of buckwheat. If they were made into biscuits, they could last for a few days. They collected information along the way. At the same time, their information was sent to the ocean cloud in as they moved forward. Li Longji looked at the information on the paper and sighed. He said to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, "It's a pity. It's a pity for these people from Japan. In order to help their country, they did everything they could. They actually ate buckwheat biscuits and salted vegetables and gave the money they had on them to passers-by. I heard that they worked hard in school. Why can't they give up their identity as Japanese? If they really didn't care about Japan, with their abilities, they would definitely have a good life in Tang. They might even be able to enter the top 100 of the billionaire list." Zhang Xiaobao had also read the information and said, "Yes, they're not bad. Every nation has people like them. Not only Japan, but Tang also has people like them. In fact, it's even better than Japan. I can respect their national spirit, but it doesn't mean that I'll let them go. There are many people like them. I think their performance is only SOSO. Showing them respect is also a form of respect for myself. Yes. Wang Wan chimed in, they're doing all right. At least I'm quite satisfied with what they're doing. Fortunately, not all Japanese are like them. The Bushido spirit hasn't been fully formed yet. I won't give them that chance. In the front line of espionage, many people have died, and many of them died unjustly. However, there are still people who keep joining, just for a belief. Compared to Japan, Tang is not inferior at all. I know that if you two were in their position, you would definitely think of Tang. However, you two would be better than them and do better. Your family spies also have to suffer like this outside? Where have they been sent to? Li Longji nodded and praised Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Then, he asked about their intelligence personnel. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan immediately smiled and pursed their lips. Well, I won't ask anymore. You have your own intelligence system, and I have mine. However, my intelligence system is good in Tang, but it's hard to say if it's sent outside. After seeing what happened to the Japanese, I decided that as long as they work hard for Tang outside, whether they come back alive or stay in a foreign country forever, after a period of time, when their identities are exposed, I will specially set aside a piece of land for them and erect a monument for them. What do you think? Li Longji thought that there were people like Yamamoto and Yamanji who saved money outside, but then took out more money to give to others. For a moment, he also felt sentimental. Zhang Xiaobao took a deep breath and said, as long as the Tang Empire maintains an absolute advantage, this matter can be done. If the Tang Empire is overtaken by others one day, then even if some people die, they won't be able to obtain a title. In fact, even if they do something beneficial to Tang, because the officials of Tang are too corrupt, not only are they unable to protect them, they even want to capture them and force them to hand over all their money. That is the most lamentable thing. A country that doesn't even have the courage to admit that someone has done a good deed and instead wants to arrest that person, forcing them to flee. This country is about to be destroyed. In truth, my request for the Great Tang is very simple. If our spy is exposed one day, he can confidently tell the other side that he is a spy for the Great Tang, but you are not allowed to touch him. Otherwise, the Great Tang will destroy you for me. Let alone killing me in broad daylight. Even if I were to reveal my identity and suddenly disappear from this place, you would still have to bear the wrath of the Great Tang. Isn't that a little too unreasonable? You went to other people's territory as an intelligence agent, and they found you, and you are telling them not to touch you? Li Longji said with a smile. Yes, that's what I mean. Being reasonable is a matter for weak countries. The strong don't need it, and what the strong say is right. Even if one day my army goes to other people's territory and kills them, but they are surrounded, they can only send the people back to me. The only thing they can do is to take the guns from our people and study them. They can't do anything to our people and turn a military conflict into a diplomatic incident. I allow them to protest, but I can only express my regret. Zhang Xiaobao said as he looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan was almost angered by Zhang Xiaobao's words. She glared at him and said, "You are talking about a strong country against a weak country. A strong country can't be strong just because you say so. You don't even have an aircraft carrier, so what can you do? Do you really think you are strong? Didn't you get better in the end? Do you know what it means to endure hardships?" I didn't say anything. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Wang Wan blankly. In the end, she rolled her eyes again. Li Longji was confused. He didn't know what the two of them were talking about. He felt that it was a mess, so he asked, "What is an aircraft carrier?" "Let me explain." Zhang Xiaobao didn't look at Wang Wan's eyes and quickly said, "An aircraft carrier is a ship that provides a combat supply platform for things that fly in the sky. For example, our hot air balloon can fly in the sky. If we attack other people and they have cannons by the sea, what do? We use a hot air balloon to attack, but it is impossible for a hot air balloon to fly to a place by itself. It is too far away, and the things inside will be burned up, so it can't fly to a place. What do? We use a ship to pull it, just like the one we have now. But for an aircraft carrier, It's not cost-effective to only use it to carry hot air balloons. So, we'll use planes instead. Then, we'll throw down powerful bombs from planes. With a wave of attacks, the entire coast will be cleared. It would be even better if we could fly further and directly blow up the enemy's military camp. Li Longji suddenly understood. Then he said, "The two of you keep talking about planes, but why haven't I seen one yet? Where are the planes? Can't the Ministry of Works figure it out? Tractors are already available, so why can't we use planes?" This. Zhang Xiaobao was surprised. In theory, with tractors, we should have planes. But theory is just theory. It is still a little difficult to turn it into reality. The main problem is that we don't have enough fuel. It is not easy to burn it up. Besides, our diesel engine is too heavy and can't fly in the sky. A speed of 120 miles per hour is too slow. We have to solve the power problem first. Let's try it next year and see how the fuel refinement is. There is also the problem of the diesel engine's weight and volume. We can't let it burn out, right? If the diesel engine in the tractor burns out, then so be it. At most, we can send a few more people to carry it. If it burns out while flying in the sky, then it will really be a disaster. Of course, the people on top can parachute down. But at the critical moment, if they jump down, the tactical objective will not be achieved, and it will be over. So, Your Majesty, you have to wait. Don't be anxious. Please don't be anxious. How can I not be anxious? Others have it, but I don't. Do you expect me to just take a beating and not fight back? Can a hot air balloon beat a plane? Is that aircraft carrier easy to build? When Li Longji heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, he became even more anxious. He was still thinking about how awesome a certain country was. Now that he heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, he immediately guessed. That country already had an aircraft carrier and a plane. He was not thinking about long-distance bombing. Instead, he was thinking about the two countries' ships encountering each other from afar. Then, the country's plane would take off, while his country's hot air balloon would take off. The other country's plane used diesel engines, while his country still burned firewood. How could the speed be the same? If the wind was not favorable and the wind was relatively strong, the hot air balloon would definitely not be able to outrun the tractor. At that time, the other country's plane would throw bundles of grenades at his ship, and his hot air balloon would be knocked down by the other country's plane before it could reach its destination. Not to mention fighting back, they would not even be able to parry the other country's plane. Zhang Xiaobao felt that he had been fooled too much. He swallowed his saliva and said, "Let's talk about the hot air balloon." Theoretically, the hot air balloon would not be able to defeat the plane, but there are always exceptions. If the range of the weapons is the same, other than the plane being more agile and faster, as long as it does not fly too high, the hot air balloon's machine gun would still be effective against it. According to what you said, standing on the ground and shooting at the sky would also be effective. Li Longji said angrily. Yes. This is the legendary air defense position. Zhang Xiaobao nodded and admitted embarrassedly. Who was the one who had been fooling around and talking about what would happen in the future? In the end, more than 10 years had passed, and the plane still had not appeared. Who asked him not to specialize in this? Wang Wan was the same. If there was a plane, she could use it, but it would be difficult for her to build it, even if it was a crappy, first-generation plane. Unless the person who came with him was a team of talented students who studied seriously, there was no need for a doctorate. Even if it was a bachelor's degree, as long as they studied hard and built a batch of planes, the plane would have appeared long ago. A profession was a profession, and he had to admit defeat. However, his profession was not this. If you asked a technician to play economics with him, he would not be able to do it, right? That was the logic. Li Longji was still thinking about how to use the plane in war. He took a deep breath to calm himself down and asked, "What about the ship?" "It's just a mothership. It's easy to build, right? Let's build it first and talk about the rest later. We can't possibly not have a ship after we have a plane, right?" Zhang Xiaobao was stunned. Wang Wan pursed her lips and smiled. When I say ship, I mean a ship used to transport the plane. Can you build one? It's easier than a gunship, right? It doesn't have to be equipped with cannons, just a plane. Li Longji felt that an aircraft carrier was easy to build. Wasn't it just a ship? It did not need to fly in the sky. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head like a rattle drum. No, Your Majesty, it's not like that. You won't understand in such a short time. That thing, it's like this. Planes don't fly like hot air balloons on the ship. In theory, there can be such planes, but let's not think about it for now, okay? So, the plane has to run on the ground first. It has to run very, very fast before it can fly. Running requires distance. When it's on the ground, we can even build a path of a few hundred kilometers for the plane to run on. What about on the ship? Then, our aircraft carrier also needs the ability to travel long distances, and it also needs to be equipped with various. At this point, Zhang Xiaobao paused for a moment, then looked at Wang Wan excitedly and asked, Madam, what do you think is the shortest gliding distance for the lightest plane, the simplest plane? We don't need to build an aircraft carrier to be very powerful. We just need to build a plane. Our plane is not some heavy bomber, right? I said no. Does a country that only knows how to protest still need an aircraft carrier? Wang Wan turned her head and said, with an aircraft carrier, won't they have more confidence when they protest? If we first build an anti-gravity warship that can go to outer space at any time, who won't tremble when they protest? What I mean is, our requirements are low now. When the plane comes out, a bigger ship, even with a hard plank, should be enough for the plane to take off, right? Zhang Xiaobao quickly followed Wang Wan's words. There was no other way. The concept of men being superior to women did not seem to appear in him and Wang Wan. Of course, the concept of women being superior to men was also impossible, unless Wang Wan had a special hobby. But that was impossible. Wang Wan's expression eased a little. She frowned and said, Okay, then what do we need a plane for? You're already in the lead now. If you use a hot air balloon to fly up, other than staring, what can they do to you? Also, a hot air balloon needs much less fuel than a plane. It's fine as long as it can take off. Then, it depends on the direction of the wind. Do you think that if we give you a large aircraft carrier and a few large bombers without bombs, what's the difference between them and our current military strength? Of course, this means that with better technology, we can make more tractors. It's definitely not a problem to use them for farming. That's true, Your Majesty. Do you understand? We don't need that lousy ship now. What we need to do now is to make guns and train people to be more accurate. An aircraft carrier is not omnipotent. As long as the ground troops are strong, the final deciding factor of victory will be the ground troops. Only then will it be the occupation. Otherwise, even if it's airdropped, it will only be a ground battle. It's useless, at least for now. But, Your Majesty, don't worry. We will let the Ministry of Works work hard on research. Perhaps in a few hundred years, an aircraft carrier or even a public carrier will be produced. Zhang Xiaobao thought about it and felt that Wang Wan's words made sense. Since they did not need the aircraft carrier to have too many functions, what would they need it for? In any case, their military strength was invincible now. In the end, Li Longji did not completely understand what Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were talking about. He was very depressed. A few hundred years later, maybe I can just fly to someone else's place and become their emperor. Everyone will submit to me, right? Your Majesty is wise, Zhang Xiaobao said. Wise? My life is gone, so what wise am I? Do you really think I can live forever? Why are you trying to scare me? Tell me about your plans. How are you going to deal with Takeshita Junichiro? What are we going to talk about when we meet this time? I still have a plan in mind. I'll have to cooperate with the two of you who can't make airplanes. Li Longji also knew that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were more anxious about the development of technology than he was, but they still did not have any good ideas. Therefore, he endured it for the time being and asked about his cooperation. Since they were not going to attack Japan, they had to achieve their goals. Seeing that Li Longji was no longer forcing him to build an aircraft carrier, Zhang Xiaobao finally heaved a sigh of relief. He was indeed rich in the past, but no matter how rich he was, it had nothing to do with an aircraft carrier. Even if you had the money to buy it, no one would sell it to you. By the time someone was willing to sell it to you, they would probably be able to perform space jumps. What was the point of having an aircraft carrier then? Fishing? Zhang Xiaobao smiled apologetically at Li Longji and said, "Your Majesty, you don't have to meet Takeshita Junichiro personally. He's not qualified yet. You can continue to play in Luzhou. Leave the matter of meeting Takeshita Junichiro to Xiaobei. I'll give her a few instructions, and she'll know what to do. Don't worry, Xiaobei will definitely have no problem handling this kind of matter. We'll keep the 3 million taels of silver first. This is a huge sum of wealth. It'd be a waste if we don't take it. When it's time to deal with Japan, we'll have to deal with them. When the leaders of the 6 Zhao arrive, we'll make Japan do what they should do. For now, we just need to give them a little hope. I don't believe they'll dare to use force against Tang immediately." Li Longji's expression eased a little. He was still worried that the other country would come and attack them. If they had nothing, they would be bullied to death. After pondering for a moment, Li Longji said, "There's something I don't understand. Xiaobao, Cuckoo, since we already have our own paper money, why do we still have to keep gold and silver? Xiaobao, you've said it before. It's nothing more than a basic currency problem. We have the technology, so why are we afraid that others will make trouble with the currency?" "Your Majesty, you're talking about this problem. How should I put it? If we say that gold and silver are important, they're really not that important. Indeed, we're keeping them for the time being because we're afraid of problems. However, even if we don't have these two things, the current currency system can't be shaken by others. However, these two things have another use. First, it's beautiful, especially the gold powder. When you use other things to decorate something, the effect won't be as good. It's really beautiful. Second, we need electronic components. We're still lacking a little. It's fine if we don't use these two things, but the efficiency is low. In the future, it won't be good if we don't use them. If the resistance is slightly higher, the things won't be able to withstand it. Then, it'll become an electric furnace. You wouldn't want to use any electrical appliances in the future to suddenly emit smoke when you use them, right? Also, how should I put it? It means that in the future, we definitely can't use gold and silver. Furthermore, you don't have to care about the value of those things. And I don't care about the value of those things. However, I do care about other things. You can use them to bribe people, right? For example, you can build a big palace with gold. It'll be cool to lie down in it during summer, right?" As Zhang Xiaobao explained, Wang Wan laughed again. "When I die, I'll lie in a coffin made of gold." Does that mean that there's still hope for me to come back to life? You're always lying to me, and you haven't even built the plane yet. Do as you see fit. Don't look for me for small things in the future. Li Longji indeed didn't understand the importance of gold and silver in electronic components. After he finished speaking, he waved his hand and turned to leave. He must be doing those shameful things again, Zhang Xiaobao whispered to Wang Wan as he watched Li Longji leave. "What is it that can't be seen?" Wang Wan asked in surprise. "Things about the continuation of life and inheritance of a race. It's hard to explain. Let me show you personally. Come, let's go to the back." Zhang Xiaobao pulled Wang Wan's hand. "If I don't go, you're a hooligan. See, you admit it. As expected, it's shameful. Let's find a place where there's no one." Chapter 1130. While Li Longji, Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan were all resting, Xiaobei was extremely energetic. She had been waiting to meet Takeshita Junichiro. She had been sleeping for a long time just to show Takeshita Junichiro her face. As for the others, especially Li Longji, who Takeshita Junichiro really wanted to meet, it was impossible for them to answer him correctly. Only a child like Xiaobei, who liked to talk to outsiders, was willing to give him face. In truth, Xiaobei's main goal was to train herself. Even though she knew that she was already pretty good at speaking diplomatic terms in Great Tang, she still felt that there was still a gap. This was especially so when she was facing her brother and sister. They did not seem to need to think at all and could casually answer her more profound diplomatic questions. In her opinion, speaking about her brother and sister was as smooth as eating noodles. It could be said that she could speak as soon as she opened her mouth, and there was no repetition. She did not know how her brother and sister trained. When she realized that she was the stupidest of the 9, Xiao Bei felt a sense of crisis. She could not draw, shoot, commentate on sports, calculate, literature, or martial arts, and so on. In these situations, she felt that the only thing she could do was to stand at the very front. Only by shouldering all the external matters would she be able to balance out a little. Otherwise, wouldn't she become the most useless? Even if her brother and sister kept saying that her position was actually just as important. With such thoughts in mind, Takeshita Junichiro had a chance to come into contact with the upper echelons of Great Tang. Before dinner, Takeshita Junichiro saw Xiao Bei. She was clearly a child in his eyes, but he could never treat her like a child because many people had already been taken advantage of. Takeshita Junichiro admitted that it would be very difficult to scheme against Xiao Bei. Perhaps Xiao Bei was not smart enough, but she was still competent in dealing with external matters. Takeshita Junichiro brought Yamamoto and Yamamoto to the side courtyard of Heiyunjin restaurant. After a series of body searches, he saw Xiao Bei sitting high up. At this time, Xiao Bei had already changed her clothes. She was wearing the official attire of Great Tang's imperial court officials. If one had to find something different, it would be the pattern on her body and the 2 kinds of fish bags on her body. But what did that count for? Even the emperor of the Great Tang, Li Longji, didn't care. Were they supposed to find any flaws in this matter and use them to threaten Xiao Bei? Takeshita Junichiro was well aware that as long as the Zhang family and the Wang family did not rebel, the emperor of the Great Tang, Li Longji, would not pursue the matter no matter what Xiao Bei and the other children did. Even if they shouted that they wanted to rebel, Li Longji would not care. Who's next? Xiao Bei's eyelids drooped as he asked the 3 kneeling Takeshita Junichiro. She didn't put on any makeup at all. Her naturally formed long Weiwei eyelashes made her look like a doll for sale. Takeshita Junichiro had the same thought. He really wanted to sell a doll, but when he heard what the doll said, he couldn't help but feel stifled. How could she not recognize him? He even got a lot of money for me. A citizen of this country, Takeshita Junichiro, greets Inspector Zhang. Takeshita Junichiro had no choice but to follow Xiao Bei's words. Oh, so it's Ichiro. The other 2 look very familiar. Could it be that they are from a mountain temple? We're all familiar with each other. Quickly get up and speak. Don't stand on ceremony. Give them a seat. Xiao Bei's drooping eyelids returned to normal. Her large eyes blinked in surprise. Li Longji, who was using a refraction mirror to look at the situation in a nearby room, immediately covered his mouth and laughed. He gave Zhang Xiaobao a thumbs up and whispered, "Amazing. He's good material to be an official." Zhang Xiaobao did not say anything and gestured for Li Longji to continue watching. Li Longji's gaze landed on the refraction mirror again. He saw someone bring over 3 small stools and place them beside Takeshita Junichiro and the other 2. Takeshita Junichiro and the other 2 had no choice but to thank him. Then they sat on the stools. However, they felt that it would be better to kneel. At least kneeling would be more comfortable. The stools were too short. They were 3 inches off the ground. If they curled their legs, it would be sullen. If they straightened their legs, they would probably be chopped off by Xiao Bei's men. Helpless, they could only sit like that. It was even more uncomfortable than sitting at the doorstep of an angry wife. Seeing them sit down, Xiao Bei asked in confusion, "Why are the 3 of you looking for me?" The 3 of them were already used to Xiao Bei's obvious question. Takeshita Junichiro replied, "We are here on behalf of Japan to ask for punishment. We hope that the Great Tang will let Japan off. The previous matter was not arranged by our emperor. The emperor had no idea." "What matter?" Crime? I don't know. Xiaobei asked blankly. It's the matter of us Japanese participating in the Jiangnan Road and causing losses to the Great Tang. We are here to ask for punishment, Takeshita Junichiro explained, even though he knew that Xiaobei was playing dumb. Xiaobei suddenly understood and said, I don't think that you are guilty. There is no need for you to ask for punishment. When two countries are at war, everyone uses their own methods. What crime is there? Is that right? Not at all. Takeshita Junichiro and the other two widened their eyes. Fear appeared in their eyes. Patrol Inspector Zhang, please don't say that. It's not a war between two countries. It's definitely not. The matter is like this. When people from other countries came to the Great Tang to cause trouble, a few people from Japan followed them. They hate the Great Tang and came here without the knowledge of our emperor. It's true that they are Japanese, but they don't represent Japan. When I returned, I had people arrest their family members, even if their family members don't know about it. Takeshita Junichiro was scared out of his wits. He explained nervously. He finally understood why it was difficult to do diplomatic work when one's military power was not strong. It's not a war? Xiaobei asked. Takeshita Junichiro shook his head vigorously. No, it's definitely not. It's a misunderstanding. We have already escorted them over. They are at your command. Oh, Xiaobei smiled embarrassedly. It seems that I misunderstood. Since it's a misunderstanding, why do we need to talk about escorting them? The ignorant can't be blamed. Since you kidnapped them, let them go. Don't affect the friendship between the two countries because of other people. Don't you agree? The three were confused by Xiaobei's words. Should they answer yes or no? This was a question that was very profound. If they did not answer correctly, it could easily lead to the destruction of their country. Takeshita Junichiro thought hard for a moment before finally saying, Patrol Inspector Zhang, I believe that regardless of whether they knew about this matter beforehand, this matter is related to them. Even if it's just the slightest bit of connection, they can't escape the consequences of their lax management. Thus, for the sake of the friendship and peace between our two countries, they must bear the corresponding responsibility. This is also an explanation to the people of the Great Tang. What do you think? What do I think? I've heard that the lives of your Japanese people aren't very good. Coincidentally, my Great Tang has invited important figures from the southwestern Jiao to come here to discuss matters and help resolve the problems of the lives of the people of the southwestern Jiao. Why don't you send someone over as well? Since you've already said that you want to give an explanation to the people of the Great Tang, I'll mention it first. The people of the Great Tang who were harmed need a small piece of land as compensation. This is the land of your Japan. We're not forcing you to give it to us, but renting it out. You might be asking why renting your land would make up for the harm done to the people of the Great Tang, right? It's actually very simple. Because the people of the Great Tang who were harmed believe that renting a piece of land from your land will make up for the harm done. Do you understand? Xiaobei followed his brother and sister's request and organized his words for Takeshita Junichiro and the others. The three of them were even more confused. What was all this nonsense? But the main meaning was clear. They wanted to rent out a piece of land to the Great Tang as compensation for their defeat in the war. Ceding land was a very simple matter. Patrol Envoy Zhang, how much land will be ceded to you? Takeshita Junichiro nervously asked. It's not ceding, it's renting. We'll give you money. Let me think, it's about 1/20th, but the money we're willing to give is 1/10 of the income of your Japanese territory. We'll first rent it for 10 years, and after 10 years, we'll talk about it again. In truth, you're the one who's benefiting twice the price. Let's settle the matter of renting the land first. Which one of you should hurry back and invite your important people to the Great Tang? Together with the people of the southwestern Jiao, one of you can examine the development model of the Great Tang, and then accept our help in other aspects. I have a list. Once you've chosen the people you want to send back, give them to bring them back. We're very sincere. Whether it's our officials, people or soldiers, we all fervently hope that they can come. I trust that you won't disappoint us, right? Xiao Bei continued to speak according to his plan. In truth, he wasn't sure what the point of calling these people over was. Was he supposed to kill them? He trusted that his brother and sister wouldn't do such a thing. Otherwise, it would have been better to just call them. Takeshita, Junichiro, and the others could hear the threat in his words. If not all the people on the list came, the people of the Great Tang would be disappointed, especially the army. What they were least worried about was renting out 1/20th of the land. Any large island would be enough. Even if they gave it to the Great Tang, it wouldn't matter. In the future, if they had the ability to take it back, they would naturally take it back. If they didn't, they had no choice but to give it to them. All right. We'll immediately arrange for people to go back. What other requests does the Great Tang have? Takeshita Junichiro saw that there was no need to resort to violence, so he agreed to the matter first. As for what would happen after the people were sent back, it wasn't something he needed to consider. Xiao Bei seemed to be deep in thought, and then he shook his head. No, I can't remember. I think the next thing is to ask you what technology Japan needs. The people of the southwestern countries are coming to Luzhou to discuss the supply of technology, but it's not free of charge. You'll have to pay a price. The price isn't high, and it's mainly to help you, not harm you. Chapter 1131. 15 years ago, Takeshita, Junichiro, and the others would have believed Xiao Bei's words. At that time, the Great Tang was very easy to negotiate with. Sending some rotten fish and prawns as tributes could be exchanged for precious silk and porcelain. Seeing that the Great Tang had advanced technology, they could also learn it. Moreover, if the Great Tang Emperor was happy, he might even send craftsmen to Japan to teach them. But now that was impossible. Would the Great Tang be so kind? Those worthless craftsmen with no status had now become treasures. As for technology, there was even less hope. Let alone military technology, even if they wanted to learn some basic technology, the Great Tang would not teach them. Thus, when they heard Xiao Bei say that he would help Japan, Takeshita, Junichiro, and the others were not happy. On the contrary, they couldn't help but tremble. What kind of rotten idea was Zhang Xiaobao coming up with now? Everything I said is true. Do you believe me? Xiao Bei asked, looking as if he was waiting for others to acknowledge him. The three nodded. We believe. How could Patrol Envoy Zhang's words be false? Really? You believe me? I don't believe you. Xiao Bei said to the three. While the three were flabbergasted, he continued, I don't believe why Big Brother and Big Sister would give you the technology. But it's true. There's also the people in the Southwest. We're not giving you the technology because we're afraid of you. We're sincerely helping you. However, the technology is not military technology, but smelting. The metal you sold us was too inferior, hindering our work. So I think that, by helping you, we'll be helping ourselves. What do you think? Yes. By helping us, you'll be helping yourselves. Patrol Envoy Zhang, you're truly too amazing. You've thought of this crucial point. With your abilities, it won't be a problem for each of you to become a governor of a province. The people under your rule will also have better lives. Takeshita Junichiro felt that Xiao Bei's words made sense. Otherwise, why would he teach them technology without any intentions? Learning the smelting technology would probably require them to pay a great price, but it would be worth it. Hearing Takeshita Junichiro's flattery, Xiao Bei's expression sank. He coldly snorted. Humph. You have bad intentions. Why do you say that? Takeshita Junichiro didn't know what he had said wrong. You said that each of us should be the provincial governor of a province? That's clearly harming us. Once the 9 of us are separated, we're nothing. Only when we're together can we be the real inspectors. What can I do if I'm the provincial governor alone? I don't even know how to calculate. You're trying to divide us. I'm very angry. My young heart has been hurt. What should I do? As Xiao Bei spoke, he covered his heart with his hand. Indeed, he was very sad. Takeshita Junichiro was dazed for a moment. Patrol Inspector Zhang, don't be sad. We brought money with us when we came. When the time comes, your money is to compensate the people of the Great Tang who were harmed. What does it have to do with me? What's more, do you think that money can make up for the damage to your heart? However, I heard that it's okay to eat abalone. Dried abalone, the kind with 2 to 4 heads, is a folk recipe. I heard that Japan has it. Do you remember? I don't know if it's true. Xiao Bei righteously refused the money and changed the topic, talking about dried abalones. Dried abalones? The kind with 2 to 4 heads per caddy? I remember. It's true. It's true. However, there aren't many 2-headed and 3-headed abalones. After those things are dried, they become lighter. Takeshita Junichiro understood. Xiao Bei was extorting him. He wanted to eat abalone. That's right. Who wouldn't want to eat abalone? The problem was that most people didn't even dare to think about it, much less eat it. It was too expensive. Xiao Bei's eyes widened a little. He said happily, "It's actually true. I didn't expect it. Actually, I don't want much. Just 100 or so caddies will do. You have a lot of 4-headed abalone, right? Give me 1,000 caddies. I believe that we don't need to search Japan to gather enough, right?" Takeshita Junichiro calculated in his heart. He reckoned that they could really gather enough. Dried abalones weren't all harvested this year. There were also those that had been prepared and preserved in the past. He nodded. All right, 100 caddies of 2-headed and 3-headed abalone, and 1,000 caddies of 4-headed abalone. I'll immediately get someone to do it and bring it back to Patrol Inspector Zhang. It's a deal. I won't take your things for free. I'll use my skills in exchange. If you give me 1,000 caddies of abalone, I'll give you 10,000 caddies of willow weaving dolls. Don't look down on dolls. Not only do they have weaving skills, but they also have planting skills. After you take them, learn them seriously. Once you've learned them, you can plant willow trees and grass if you want to plant them. Isn't that awesome? Xiao Bei said very fairly. He didn't take advantage of them. Takeshita Junichiro swallowed 2 mouthfuls of saliva. Clearly, he was shocked by Xiao Bei's generosity. He could have willow trees and grass in the future. Looking at his expression, Xiao Bei sighed like an adult and said, "Do you think that I'm lying to you?" "No, no one thinks that you're lying to us," Takeshita Junichiro hurriedly said. However, he felt deeply sorrowful in his heart. He knew that the other party was bullying him, but he had no choice but to play along. He just wanted to curry favor with the other party, even if the other party was a child. Who asked the other party to have such a good brother and sister? If he really offended the other party with his words, perhaps before the Tang Empire's army was mobilized, the other party's guards would have already boarded a ship and attacked. Was there anything more sorrowful and helpless in the world than this? Not only was the other party powerful, but more importantly, it was the other party's will. If everyone in his country was wholeheartedly committed to war, the Tang Empire wouldn't dare to start a war lightly. How long would it take for the Tang Empire to kill all the Japanese? Would they still be able to kill more people? It was a pity that the Tang Empire's supporters of peace had been enduring time and time again. They always thought that if they took a step back, the Tang Empire would let Japan off. However, they didn't know that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had the ambition to destroy the country. When the Bohai Sea Commander-in-Chief's office's ocean-going fishing team came to his country to search for fish, the fishermen of his country had no choice but to hide far away when they saw them, even though they knew that they were very close to his country. Why? Wasn't it because the Tang Empire's supporters of peace were afraid that the fishermen would offend the other party and cause them to send the Bohai Sea Commander-in-Chief's office's fleet over? What was frightening wasn't the Tang Empire's gunboats, but their will as a strong country. When the fishermen of his country backed down, what they lost was not only the harvest they were about to gain, but also their confidence in their country. As he thought about it, Takeshita Junichiro's eyes turned red. Xiao Bei didn't know what the other party was thinking about. When he saw that Takeshita Junichiro was about to cry, he said angrily, I just said that I didn't take advantage of you. Why are you crying? What's wrong with planting willow trees? What's wrong with planting grass? Isn't it good? Do you know how much the grass here is worth? 1 meter long and 1 meter wide, don't you? How much? His train of thought was interrupted by Xiaobei's words, so Takeshita Junichiro asked in confusion. Yamamoto and Yamamoto, behind him, were also puzzled. F***CK, it can be calculated based on the area. If one were to say how much a pile of grass was worth, they might be able to give a number. If there were too many, they could be used to make fires. Or, like the Tang Empire's current situation, they could be used to make dung and fill up the methane pools. Xiaobei gestured with his hand and said, 60 copper coins for such a big place. Of course, there are special requirements for the grass as well. Don't believe me? The grass in the soccer field is also called kuju. Do you remember? The kind that many people in the Tang Empire like to play. The three of them nodded at the same time. I remember now. The grass, there is 60 copper coins for a square meter? Yamamoto really didn't know that the grass in the soccer field was worth so much. It's not a square meter. A square meter is a square meter, and the perimeter is different. It's 60 copper coins. You don't know how to cultivate abalones, so it's just a lucky income. But you can plant grass. If you can grow grass that's more suitable for soccer, we'll buy it for 100 copper coins per square meter. Since you have nothing to do, why don't you study how to grow grass? No matter how expensive two-headed abalone is, you have to find it first. The grass won't grow legs and run away, right? Xiaobei guided the three of them to develop the idea of growing grass. Just as Takeshita, Junichiro, and company felt that it was a good idea, they suddenly realized that if grass was that easy to grow, why would Xiaobei give them the benefits? Furthermore, they were talking about exchanging a lot of abalones for willow weave dolls. Even if they wanted to learn techniques, they didn't need dolls that weighed more than 5,000 kilograms, right? When did willow weave dolls start to be weighed by kilograms? They weren't sold by the size. Patrolling Inspector Zhang, there's no need to talk about the transaction. We are willing, so let's talk about other matters. Takeshita Junichiro felt that he shouldn't be caught up in whether it was worth it or not. If others didn't want to give them dolls, would they dare not give them dried abalones? Other matters? I've already said it before, so I won't repeat it. Let's talk about something that I didn't mention before. You have quite a number of people on the ship, right? Xiaobei was too embarrassed to continue when he saw that the other party wasn't mentioning the willow weave. He changed the topic. Takeshita Junichiro nodded. Yes, there are people escorting the goods. It's good that there are people. How about this? Let's organize a few soccer matches. Apart from the people who report back, there's nothing else to do. We can use it for fun, all right? Xiaobei said, following the idea of the lawn earlier. Takeshita, Junichiro, and the others were more familiar with this. In the past, Tang Dynasty liked to compete with others in various things. There were boat races, polo hunting, and so on. The only thing they were worried about was what they would lose if they lost. Hence, Yamamoto asked, are there any stakes? No. Xiaobei shook her head. What else can you use as a stake? However, if you win each match, you'll be rewarded. I'll pay for the rewards, and I won't charge entrance fees. It's not my place to ask for money from the people of Luzhou. This is purely for fun. I don't mean anything else, all right? Otherwise, all of you can't go back. There's no point in staying here, right? When they heard Xiaobei's words, the three of them were suspicious again. Since when was Xiaobei so easy to talk to? Why would she do something that did not benefit her? The three of them looked at each other. They could not see any clear hints from the eyes of the people around them. It was as though they did not understand anything. There's no harm to us? Takeshita Junichiro asked with uncertainty. Xiaobei shook her head vigorously. Absolutely not. Do I look like a liar? If that's the case, we'll participate. Takeshita Junichiro made up his mind. Chapter 1132. The competition was scheduled for the next morning. Takeshita, Junichiro, and the other two returned to the courtyard of the inn with a special mood. Xiao Bei happily joined up with the others and began to whisper to each other. Even Li Longji couldn't find a chance to praise him. Xiao Bei was probably immune to praise that didn't have any substantial benefits, even if the person praising him was the current emperor. Xiao Bao, what do you think your sister is going to do? Li Longji could not praise Xiao Bei, so he could only turn to ask Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao did not care about his younger brother and sister's schemes at all. He was waiting for the important figures of the various families and the imperial family in Japan to come over, especially the hardliners. He wanted to send the main leaders to Tang and stay there for 3 to 5 years. Japan would completely fall. When he heard Li Longji's question, he casually replied, I think Xiao Bei wants to get some benefits. That's what I'm asking. Li Longji emphasized his purpose. Ask Xiao Bei, or keep watching. You'll be able to see something. Zhang Xiaobao still did not give the answer Li Longji wanted. In fact, he did not know what his sister was going to do, and he was not in the mood to think about it. Li Longji was depressed. After saying that he had to go back to deal with the country's affairs, he got up and left. Early the next morning, the people near Luzhou's provincial capital headed to Luzhou Stadium in groups. Luzhou Stadium was well built. It covered an area of 1 million square meters. It sounded big, but in fact, it was just a square that was 1,000 meters long. There was a reinforced concrete building in the middle. There were several track and field events in it. The football field for the competition was also there. However, due to the lack of technology, there was no ceiling above, and there was no automatic opening and closing glass ceiling. In fact, it was not entirely because the technology could not keep up. If they did not care about the cost and invested manpower and material resources like the research on cannons and steam engines, it could still be achieved. However, the cost was too high, and it was not cost-effective. If they had the energy, they might as well use it on loading and unloading goods at the docks. In the middle of the stadium was the football field, and naturally, there was a circle of grandstands around it. Because there was no projection technology, and it was impossible for people to use binoculars, the furthest place from the grandstand was only 150 meters away from the center, and more than 50 meters away from the track outside. Moreover, the grandstand at the back was not particularly high. It was only 4 meters high. Just like Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's gymnasium, it was empty below. It could be used as a shop and a changing room. The reason why it covered an area of 1 million square meters was mainly because it was located outside the gymnasium. The other areas were all small fields. There were football, basketball, badminton, and even billiard tables for people to play. 2 copper coins could be used to play for 2 hours. He didn't expect to make much profit, as long as it was enough to cover the maintenance costs of the venue. Apart from the largest sports stadium, there were also many other places in Luzhou that were specially provided for children to play. Zhang Xiaobao had always felt that countries that were good at sports might not necessarily be good at national strength. However, countries that were at war or had weak national strength would definitely not be good at sports. Children who were supposed to receive all kinds of training during their normal development period would have a great impact on their health if they could only stay in the school to study every day. Therefore, they had to invest when it was necessary. Moreover, they did not need much money. More importantly, the money used did not need to be paid by the imperial court. The merchants who could provide all kinds of things for the school would take care of it. Therefore, the venue was easy to set up. The merchants only needed to find carpenters and craftsmen to help make some sports equipment and put it there for the children to use. As for the physical training of the adults, it seemed that they did not need it. The adults all had jobs. Most of them were involved in agriculture and handicrafts. They did not need any equipment to train their bodies. What made Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan feel gratified was that the things made for the children were placed there openly. There had never been a case of vandalism. This was an era where morality still existed. From the officials to the common people, No one dared to break the law righteously. Junichiro Takeshita and the other Japanese were also very envious when they came over. They watched as the children who came over today took a card and went to a house next to them to get a football. Then they formed a group and ran to the field next to them. Their eyes showed sadness. The better the children of Great Tang lived, the worse it seemed to the children of their own country. It was about the same in the past, but now the children of their own country seemed to be living even worse. Many children had to help the adults do things. They did not have the time to play in peace, let alone have a special venue and equipment. 2 copper coins for 2 hours. Do the children of your country have to pay to play? Takeshita Junichiro asked Xiaobei, who was beside him, when he kicked a soccer ball that was accidentally kicked by a child back to the other party. However, he realized that the ball was kicked even further away. Xiaobei nodded. Of course. The maintenance of the venue costs money. Takeshita Junichiro observed carefully and asked, "Why don't I see any children paying?" "Because the children don't have money," Xiaobei answered. "Then how do they pay?" Takeshita Junichiro asked gloomily. "Cards. The cards they hold have money on them. There are patterns printed on them. How much money do they need? When the time comes, they'll pay the merchants who gave them the money. It's a rule that the stadium collects money. It's a benefit that the children don't have to fork out their own money. There's no conflict." As Xiaobei spoke, he waved at a child. When the child ran over, he took the card from the child and showed it to Takeshita Junichiro and the others. As expected, there were patterns that represented 1 copper coin to 3 copper coins on the card. The patterns were very detailed. At the very least, the children would not be able to draw it themselves. There was a small line of words at the bottom that said, "Children of Great Tang, Luzhou." It meant that the adults had no use for this card. Even if they took the card away from the children, they would not be able to find a place to spend it. Takeshita Junichiro handed the card back to the child who was waiting there. He asked Xiaobei, "Can we buy anything with this card? If so, what if a skilled craftsman draws this card for the child?" "Yes, we can buy anything as long as we have enough money. The child doesn't have to spend it himself. He can buy rice and noodles for his family. However, a child only has that much money a month. The amount of money they get depends on their academic performance and other skills. The best child in Luzhou can get 300 copper coins a month at most. Not only are they good at their studies, but they're also good at other things. If you spend 300 copper coins a month, you might be able to avoid detection once or twice. However, if you spend too many times, you'll be discovered. Once you're discovered, the consequences will be severe." Xiaobei explained confidently. "What if I make it and sell it?" Takeshita Junichiro was unconvinced. "How can a child buy it if he doesn't have money? Sell it to the adults and let the child spend it. You can try to make it and sell it. You have to ensure that the people you choose to sell it to won't catch you on the spot. More importantly, you have to ensure that their child won't tell the other children. If you're caught, you'll be killed for illegally minting money," Xiaobei said disdainfully. Takeshita Junichiro did not continue to discuss this matter. He believed that Xiaobei had already considered everything that he could think of. He changed the topic and chatted as they entered the stadium. As soon as they entered the stadium, Takeshita Junichiro and the others heard cheers that sounded like a tsunami. A banner that welcomed the Japanese football team was hung on the stands facing the entrance. They could feel the intense enthusiasm. This made the Japanese people feel that Luzhou's attitude toward them was not affected by the incident that happened some time ago. Takeshita Junichiro said to Xiaobei with an embarrassed expression on his face, "Inspector Zhang, I didn't expect the people of Luzhou to understand the harm that our people have caused to your country a few days ago." "Understand? Understand what?" "Today is a football match. It's a competitive event, and it has to be sportsmanlike. It doesn't involve military affairs or politics. Don't be fooled by the fact that they're welcoming you now. They're welcoming the football match. If Japan doesn't do a good job, they might be welcoming you here while the army is mobilizing outside. Sportsmanlike spirit knows no boundaries. As long as it's related to sports, there's peace between our countries. If something bad happens in diplomacy, we can use sports to communicate and improve our understanding of each other, especially the perception of the people. Xiaobei solemnly told Takeshita, Junichiro, and the others. Of course, there was something in her heart that she did not say out loud, and that was that the spirit of sports did not discriminate between countries, but the people involved in sports had nationalities and ethnic affiliations. However, she would not say this out loud. How could she lie if she said it out loud? Takeshita, Junichiro, and the others did not know this. When they heard Xiaobei's words, they could not help but feel inspired. They looked like they were in a daze. Then, the few people led by Takeshita, Junichiro, became vigilant again. It was not that they found something wrong with Xiaobei's words, but they had been deceived to the point that they had some conditioned reflexes. Believing what the Zhang family and the Wang family said was a very scary thing. Not believing it was actually very scary. In any case, as long as they had any relationship with the Zhang family and the Wang family, they had to be extremely vigilant. Even so, it was very easy to fall into a trap. It was impossible to guard against it. Let your people enter the locker room. We've provided you with jerseys and shoes. The numbers are arranged according to your body size. When you go in, you'll see the place where your name is written. There are things that belong to that person inside. If you can't read, you can ask. Next, let's focus on enjoying the exciting match. Don't think too much. Sports is pure and should not involve other aspects. Xiaobei did not care about what the other party thought. She continued with the introductions and led Takeshita, Junichiro, and the others who were not participating in the match to the spectator seats. On the other hand, Takeshita, Junichiro, was taken aback. When he went back yesterday, he had arranged for 30 people who knew how to play football. Today he had yet to decide which 11 to send on the field first, and was even more worried about what kind of clothes to wear. In the end, the other party had already prepared clothes according to their figures. It looked like all 30 people were prepared. Such a perfect and accurate intelligence system was very scary. Sports was very simple, but things outside the field were not simple at all. Chapter 11:33. While Takeshita, Junichiro, and the others were admiring the intelligence systems of the Zhang family and Wang family and trying to figure out the purpose of Xiaobei's disclosure of this matter, the members of both teams had already changed their clothes. When the Japanese team came out of the locker room, Takeshita, Junichiro felt a wave of dizziness. Other than the number printed on the team's clothes, there were also words and colorful patterns printed on them. Wonjo Juyo. Takeshita, Junichiro read out the words on the clothes very quickly. He turned his head to look at Xiaobei in confusion and asked, "What is Juyo?" "Ah, you're asking about the words?" Wonjo Juyo is a company in Wonjo called Juyo. They are in the leather business, and now they mainly sell leather shoes. There are men's shoes, women's shoes, and children's shoes. They are very famous, but as Xiaobei explained with a smile, he looked down at himself and realized that everything he was wearing was made by his family's company. He could only look elsewhere and suddenly pointed happily. Do you see the person sitting 20 seats away on the left? He is wearing Juyo leather shoes. The workmanship is excellent and the taste is outstanding. Their advertising slogan is "Walking on the Waves, Walking on Juyo." It is a very good company that makes shoes. The Tang people are proud to have a pair of Juyo shoes. Takeshita, Junichiro nodded slowly and glanced at Xiaobei. What he meant was, "Since it's good, why don't you wear Juyo shoes?" Xiaobei's comprehension ability was still very strong. When he saw Takeshita, Junichiro's gaze, he smiled sweetly and said, "I also want a pair, but I can't. Their production is limited. It's better to give it to people who need it more. Watch the game. Your Japanese football team is now sponsored by Wonjo Juyo Shoes." There was still some time before the game began. At the very least, the football players from both sides had to be introduced by the commentator. The cadence of the voice echoed in the stadium, and the applause and cheers of the audience could be heard from time to time. The commentator was dedicated, and so was the audience. No matter which country they were from, there was no need to know them. Once the commentator introduced them, he would first give a shout and show enthusiasm. This finally made Yamamoto and the others feel the magnanimity of a strong country. Of course, this magnanimity was limited to sports games. Takeshita Junichiro, who was affected by the shouts of the audience, shook his head and finally remembered that his purpose was not to watch the game. Winning or losing was not important. He then asked Xiaobei for advice. Patrol Envoy Zhang, where did this sponsorship come from? It's just money. Their clothes, shoes, and boards will all be paid by Wenzhou Juyo Shoes. There's also their appearance fee. It's not a small sum of money. You can use it as a reward or for training. The condition is that as long as you have a competition, you have to wear clothes with their company's advertisement printed on them. I've thought about it. After today's competition ends, I'll specifically provide training assistance to your team members. When you go back, your standards will be improved a lot. When you go back to Japan, you can win more matches. Remember to get them to train harder when you go back. Because in the future, our great Tang will often compete with your Japan. If you win, we'll give you points, and you can use those points to trade for technology in our great Tang. It'll be the same as the workers you send to the great Tang, and you'll even get more points. Xiaobei kept gesturing with his hands, drawing a big picture for Takeshita Junichiro and the others. Takeshita Junichiro did not care much about the sponsorship. He did not think that he could get much money from it. What Xiaobei said next was what attracted him. If we win against you, we'll get points to trade for technology? Yes, that's right. It sounds nice, but it's not easy. I don't believe that you Japanese can beat us. When the time comes, the teams we send over are all teams that have played in our great Tang and won in the end. They're 1 in a million. It's the same for the other sports like billiards, badminton, and so on. Xiaobei said proudly. He had a look of contempt on his face. Yes. The people of your country are extraordinary. However, we'll work hard as well. Takeshita Junichiro flattered him, but he did not admit defeat. I'll tell you the various sports later, and I'll also tell you the rules. Get someone to bring it back. It's starting. Look, Lu Zhou's team is going to score. Won't they score if they add more spin? Stupid. The ball flew over the crossbar. It was so close. As Xiaobei spoke, he suddenly stopped talking about the points. Instead, he became excited about the competition. Takeshita Junichiro was startled. He looked at the field. As expected, someone threw a ball from behind their goal. He guessed that the ball was kicked. As for where the shot came from, he did not know. There was no replay. However, he could guess that it was kicked by the opponent's forward, number 11. Only number 11's position was suitable. Number 11 did not have a captain's armband, and the words Lu Zhou Ocean Line were printed on his shirt. He was probably either from a fleet or a shipyard. When Takeshita Junichiro looked at the formations on both sides, he could not help but feel worried. Great Tang's formation was the most common 4-4-2 formation he had ever seen. His team, on the other hand, had a 2-3-4-1 formation. It was a very strange formation, who arranged for 2 defenders. When he thought about the formation, Takeshita Junichiro looked for one of the people he brought over. He gave a few instructions, and that person immediately left. Shortly after, that person returned with another person. You arranged a formation? Takeshita Junichiro asked the person who came after him. Yes, it's me, that person replied. Can you explain the wonders of this formation? Takeshita Junichiro watched as the opponent's left flank kept breaking through. Then they formed a shot that was narrowly saved by their own goalkeeper as he rolled and crawled. He asked the person who came after him, Your Excellency, my formation is 5-3-2. It focuses on defense, and it's a defensive counterattack. The 2 outstanding forwards are relatively skilled, and they run fast. The person who acted as the coach was so anxious that he was sweating when he saw the situation on the field. Oh, Takeshita Junichiro nodded and praised. Not bad. The 5 defenders are in a double defensive line, and the 3 midfielders are good at seizing the opportunity. They rushed forward and put a lot of pressure on the opponent. One of the forwards even ran to the side of the opponent's small penalty area and looked for an opportunity to break through behind the 4 defenders. Good, very good. The coach sweated even more. No matter how stupid he was, he could understand the meaning behind Takeshita Junichiro's words. His team's formation was scattered, so why did the forwards rush over? What was there to talk about with the other team's goalkeeper? Without waiting for the coach to explain, Takeshita Junichiro said, "The first half is already like this. Just make do with it. During the break, I don't care what method you use, but you must stabilize the formation. Don't make a fool of yourself." Hey! The coach lowered his head and hurried back to the side of the field. He shouted and even made hand gestures as he tried to save some face. However, the 2-3-4 formation was quite exciting. When the players pressed forward, apart from forwards who could not pass the ball, the other 9 players could still fight, pass the ball, and shoot. Moreover, they shot quite a number of times, and they often broke through the midfielders of Liu Zhou's Hainan Airlines team. Liu Zhou's Hainan Airlines team also showed off their individual skills. When the defender received the ball in front of the small penalty area, he dared to dribble and rush toward the opponent's goal. He used the Xiaobao spin, the pendulum pass, the bicycle step, and the oxtail flick. He used everything he had the chance to use. It showed how hard he had been practicing his skills. Moreover, as long as the players of the Hainan Airlines team reached the Japanese team's half of the field, they would definitely do a somersault to throw the ball. One was high, and the other was far. Whenever they encountered the ball, they would directly raise their feet and shoot at 0 degrees. They did not pass the ball at all. They just tried their best to spin toward the Japanese team's goal. The enthusiasm of the audience was aroused. Whether it was attacking or defending, the rhythm was so fast. When they fought for the ball, except that no one deliberately committed a foul, it was also so intense. The only regret was that they had not scored a single goal until now. Finally, the forward who rushed to chat with the opponent's goalkeeper made a reverse offside. To be precise, it was not a reverse offside. When the defender of the Hainan Airlines team in front of him saw the opponent kick the ball straight toward his chest, he did not use his chest to stop the ball. Instead, he did a difficult 360-degree kick with his left leg as the center and his right leg as the radius. If he did not get the ball, it would not matter. The goalkeeper could catch it. Even if the opponent's forward got the ball, it would be offside. However, his leg touched the ball. Then, the ball changed direction and rolled to the foot of the opponent's forward who was on the same horizontal line as him. The goalkeeper had already lost his position. Just like that, the forward got the ball. First, he kicked the ball to the goalpost more than 7 meters away from the goal. After it bounced back and deceived the goalkeeper again, he dribbled the ball 2 steps and carefully sent the ball into the goal. Takeshita Junichiro looked at the ball that entered the goal and listened to the various sounds made by the audience. He was dumbfounded and muttered, "That works." The fans from Japan were happy. Although they were not here to watch the game, they naturally had to cheer since the ball had entered the goal. However, before their happy mood could gradually subside, Liu Zhou and Hainan Airlines coordinated with each other 15 seconds after the kickoff and scored with a long-distance kick. The audience once again made all kinds of sounds, making the Japanese people suddenly feel that happiness came too quickly. Before they could savor the excitement in detail, it was gone in the blink of an eye. They did not know if they should feel relieved or helpless. The game on the field was still going on. The rhythm was still as breathtaking. The offside players were offside, and the dribbling players were dribbling. By the end of the first half, both sides had scored 4 goals each. 2 goals were scored by the 9 Wanderers first, and the other 2 were scored by the Hainan Airlines first. However, no matter who scored first, they caught up within 3 minutes, making the spectators feel excited. How can this be? Takeshita Junichiro was very puzzled. Until the second half, when both sides scored 3 goals each. The entire game ended in a 7-7 tie. He still could not understand when the football players of his country had become so powerful. Takeshita-kun, you Japanese people really can't be taken lightly. I must talk to the people of the Hainan Airlines team. They're too unreasonable. After training for so long, they actually played to a tie. Xiao Bei said to Takeshita Junichiro regretfully. Takeshita Junichiro was happy. At the same time, he had more doubts. He could not stop thinking. He kept feeling that something was wrong. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.